Chapter 1799. Juxian World. In the cold stone room, white mist like immortal chi lingers. The white mist adheres to the stone wall, imprinting the color and traces of ice and snow. It makes the whole stone room cold and gloomy. But in this gloomy and cold stone room, the green figure on the ice bed makes the whole stone room a little warmer. However, this warmth was not real. At least, it cannot be felt by Ghostly, who is standing by the ice bed. He is standing in front of the ice bed, waiting quietly. He has joined the chat group for a few days, but he is not interested in this mysterious chat group that appeared in his mind. He is not interested in that ancestor god. Until the appearance of the person named "The World Can't Betray Me" and some of the conversations in the group, he is interested. As an ordinary immortal cultivator in the Blue Cloud sect, because of love, he fell into the demonic path. Now, in his eyes, there is only this green figure on the ice bed. But now, resurrection, Ghostly murmurs in a low voice, "This ancestor god, what kind of existence is it?" Being interested, naturally, in order to find out, Ghostly looks through the chat history in the group. Crush the star. The star is the sun in their mouth, the sun in the sky. To be able to crush the sun with one hand, even the immortals in the legends can do it. The more he looks, the more shocked Ghostly is. What is the sun? In this immortal cultivation world, the sun is the essence of heaven and earth. It is the source of light with great power in countless myths and legends. It is the foundation for all life to survive in this world. If there is no sun, this world may not even have spiritual energy. Immortal cultivators are in awe of the sun, not to mention crushing the sun. Even if they fly up to the sky and want to get closer, they cannot withstand the heat. In dozens of years of experience, Ghostly has never heard of anyone who can spy on the sun in the sky. Crush it? Even the myths and the legends do not dare to write such a story. At first, Ghostly thought that these unknown people in the group were all just boasting, until he found out that the video in the group can be downloaded to watch. Only then did he know that his vision is too small. The bright light in the hand of the ancestor god is more dazzling than the sun in the sky. The power it emits is endless. Even through the screen, Ghostly can feel the terrible power contained in it. It was an unimaginable power that could destroy the entire world. Just like that, the silhouette of an ancestral god gently crushed it. Moreover, that world hadn't suffered any damage at all. What kind of great power was that? Ascended immortals? Ghostly's heart beat wildly. Then, with a wave of his hand, a silver river that looked like a star changed the structure of the entire world. Especially when he saw that the ordinary animals that were casually transformed were actually not the slightest bit inferior to the ancient divine beasts in the grand desolate border mountains. This was simply an immortal miracle. Only immortals who had ascended would have the ability to enlighten. Ghostly knew that this ancestor god was no ordinary person. He wasn't sure if he was an immortal, but his strength was definitely incomparably strong. However, no matter how powerful he was, could he reverse the cycle of reincarnation and change his fate? Ring. A gust of icy wind blew past, and a crisp, ringing sound was heard. Ghostly's emotions were pulled back to the stone chamber. He stared at the beautiful green figure on the ice bed again and clicked on the video with a determined look in his eyes. He wanted to know more about the ancestor god's deeds. At the same time, he also understood the world where the other people in the chat group were in. He realized that other than the world called Fanyi, most of them were about the same. There was even a world that was relatively similar to the world he was in. That was the world where the shop assistant from Yangonpon was in. It seemed that there were immortals there as well. The other worlds weren't much different. Especially when he looked at some of the battle scenes in the video, he realized that most of them were about the same. It was just that the way they were fighting was very different. Until, with a trembling heart, he clicked on the video sent by the group member "People Can't Betray Me." He wanted to confirm if the ancestor god could really bring the dead back to life. However, the moment he clicked on it, Ghostly was greatly shocked. He was shocked by the power of this group member. Those soldiers are all emitting a powerful aura. They are not inferior to those 4th or 5th generation disciples of the Blue Cloud sect. especially those generals. They are at least comparable to the peak masters of the Blue Cloud sect. There are so many of them. Ghostly was truly shocked by the strength of that group member. Moreover, that was an army of hundreds of thousands. This meant that if that group member came to the world they were in, it wouldn't be a problem for him to sweep through them, especially those warships. Although I don't know how these warships were made, each of them should be an extremely powerful, large-scale magic weapon. Ghostly knew that this might be the cultural difference between the two worlds. Perhaps the strength of the top cultivator in this world and the strongest cultivator in the world of that group member were not much different. But the difference in power caused by the cultural difference was too great. That was a chaotic world filled with war and smoke. Such a powerful force can be gathered in the hands of one person. Ghostly thought of the Ghost King, the sect master of the Ghost King sect. However, compared to him, this group member was obviously more powerful. The territory and power he controlled were also more powerful. That is the sun's essence, fire. It is difficult for any magic weapon to withstand the erosion of this flame. I'm afraid only immortals can activate it. The later scene also confirmed Ghost Lee's conjecture. Whether it was the warships of this world or the people of this world, they were all very powerful. Under the terrifying sun's essence fire, hundreds of thousands of soldiers were turned into ashes. From here, Ghostly could feel how terrifying the scene of the sun being crushed was. Even the cultivators of our world would find it difficult to resist this level of flame for a long time. The shocking Ghost Lee's eyes began to turn into hope. As expected, the video progressed very quickly. The light and shadow descended, and the ancestor god reappeared. The thing that Ghostly wanted to see the most finally happened, just a ray of divine light. His eyes opened wide, so wide that they were filled with blood. Countless blood vessels instantly filled his eyes. Just one ray of divine light was enough to bring these powerful warriors back to life. Ghostly had never seen such a shocking scene before. What he cared about more was that they were really revived. "It's real, it's real," he suddenly cried loudly. His cold and indifferent eyes began to quickly be replaced by hope and ecstasy. He lay on the edge of the ice bed, revealing a loss of self-control that he had never shown before. "Biao, I can revive you," Ghostly murmured. Dozens of breaths later, he began to calm down. He began to think. If I want the ancestor god to descend, I have to chant the great Tao God summoning chapter. Piety is the key, Ghostly said silently. In the group, 2 of the group members have tried, but they did not seem to succeed. Piety. These 2 words were too vague. Chapter 1800. That's right, offerings. If I add in a suitable offering, will it? Ghostly pondered. He had seen the offering to borrow another 10,000 years from the heavens. To be honest, those offerings were not worth mentioning in this world. Blood offerings, offerings. Heavenly book, Ghostly pondered. Perhaps the heavenly book and this fire rod, ancestral god, should be interested in them. The heavenly book was this world's cultivation mystic technique, a supreme treasure. Based on what Ghostly knew, the heavenly book contained the cultivation philosophy of the 3 most powerful sects in this world: Buddhism, Demon, and Taoism. In other words, the cultivation mantras of Buddhism, Demon, and Taoism were all comprehended from the heavenly book. Ghostly once thought that this should be an immortal technique. It fell into this world. Ghostly raised his hand and looked at the black rod in his hand. At the top, there was a round bead that looked like a blood gem. It emitted a soul-stirring light. The heavenly book and the soul-devouring rod were the 2 most precious treasures he had. I hope the ancestral god will be interested in them. Ghostly took a deep breath. This was the so-called piety and sincerity. Whether it succeeds or not, perhaps it will only depend on this moment. Thinking of this, Ghostly began to recite the great Tao God summoning chapter. Almost from the very beginning, he had sensed a strong spiritual fluctuation. In an instant, the depths of his soul were filled with a huge shadow. An ancient and eternal supreme aura spread out like the vastness of the universe. Boom! The shadow descended. The entire stone room seemed to be unable to block the majesty of the shadow. Ghostly suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the shadow in a daze. His breathing became rapid. I already know. From the shadow came a voice that shook the depths of his soul. I can revive the person you love. The ancestral god's words made Ghostly feel the warmth of this world again. But you have to think carefully. The ancestral god continued slowly. Once she is revived, what choice will you face? Ghostly's body suddenly stopped. What do you know? Ghostly muttered. I am omniscient. The ancestor god continued. Your original name was Zhang Xiao Fan, and you came from this world's Azure Cloud sect. You were originally an insignificant disciple, but due to a freak combination of factors, you fell in love with this world's demonic woman. Later, because this demonic woman sacrificed herself for you, you betrayed the Azure Cloud sect. Only after a lot of training did you become who you are now. At the same time, in your heart, there is another woman besides this demonic woman. Have you thought it through? Ghostly stumbled back a few steps. Where did this ancestor god come from? How could she know so much about him? However, thinking of the ancestor god's remarkable abilities, Ghostly also felt at ease. Perhaps for a great being of this level, even this world was only a matter of a single thought from the ancestor god. You still care about the feelings of us mortals? Ghostly was silent for a moment and asked in a low voice. I don't mind, the ancestor god said majestically. However, if you call out piously, I will answer your call and descend. You will be my believer. God was tolerant and compassionate towards his believers. Since you are a devout believer in my glory, then God must know everything about you. Ghostly understood what he meant. Moreover, emotions are the great Tao of the universe. It is the source of life. There is no distinction between mortals and gods. Ghostly's heart trembled. Regarding this, he vaguely had a feeling. His realm seemed to be about to break through at any time. This gave Ghostly a huge shock. He didn't expect that this ancestor god didn't do anything. Just a few seemingly ordinary words could make him break through. Then what should I do? Ghostly knelt on the ground and asked piously. Think of the past and future and have a clear conscience. The ancestor god said. Ghostly was startled. He seemed to understand. Do you still want to resurrect her? The ancestor god asked. Yes. Ghostly answered without hesitation. Good. Then as you wish. After saying that, divine light descended. It fell into the emerald green figure. Suddenly, the world changed. Streaks of white light converged from all directions. It was like 3 souls and 6 spirits, reversing reincarnation and yin and yang. This was even more heaven-defying than a cultivator going against the heavens. In an instant, the cold stone room was blown to smithereens by this terrifying aura. Ghostly looked at the sky in a daze. The world changed. Lightning flashed. The heavens that controlled the lives of all living beings seemed to want to send down the 9 heavens of lightning tribulation, smashing the heaven-defying person into pieces. Waves of terrifying aura brewed from the heavens above. Ghostly held his breath, his body trembling. In order to save his beloved, he once went to the Sublime Cord Temple, one of the major Buddhist sects in the world, to borrow a divine artifact, the Universe Reincarnation Disc. It could reverse the heavens and earth, reverse yin and yang karma. There was a chance that he could save his beloved. But the senior monk of the Sublime Cord Temple said that this was a heaven-defying act. Changing the fate of heaven and earth would definitely lead to heavenly punishment. That was even more terrifying than ascending and going through the lightning tribulation. It was a situation where there was no chance of survival. Ghostly wasn't afraid at that time, but later on, due to some reasons, he didn't succeed. But now, seeing the heavenly punishment descending, he finally understood what it meant by no chance of survival. In the chat group, he knew that the world was different. The rules were different. This world wasn't like the world where no one could betray him. Here, he had to resurrect the dead. Not only did he need to reverse the heavens and earth, he also needed to be able to withstand the heavens' punishment. The rules of the world was so terrifying. Above the 9 heavens, endless thunderclouds gathered. It seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth, destroying all living beings in the universe. Almost at this moment, almost all living beings in the world felt a destructive aura. But only Ghostly knew that this kind of destruction was targeted at the ancestor god. It was targeted at the green temperature on the ice bed. But at this moment, he only heard a calm voice. Oomph. That was a voice from the ancestor god Shadow. The calm voice was like the explosion of the universe. Almost in an instant, the entire sky trembled violently. In an instant, the boundless thunderclouds actually dissipated without a trace. The lightning tribulation that seemed like it was going to destroy the world disappeared. Ghostly looked at this scene in a daze. This was the heavenly punishment? This was the world's rules? The heavenly Tao? So fragile. Ghostly suddenly had a feeling that this world was very fragile. Ghostly silently looked at the ancestor god Shadow. Although he didn't talk about those immortals who ascended, they should be very far from the ancestor god. Deal with it well. The shadow gradually disappeared, vanishing from the world, as if it never appeared. Only the warmth in his palm told Ghostly that all of this was real. Little fan? A slightly weak voice sounded by his ear. At this moment, Ghostly looked at that beautiful figure like a stone statue, his eyes filled with the brilliance of the world. Ancestral realm. Master, I see that you seem to be a little sad. Yin Mingyao was recording the harvest this time. After a moment of silence, she said, Master, why do I feel that I lost out a little reviving a person in Ghostly's world and reviving half a child of destiny? This consumes origin energy. Compared to the power of faith that Ghostly produced, the sex ratio is not high. However, Wang Feng smiled and said, I've completed one of your master's regrets. Compared to that, it's much better. In comparison, the power of faith that Ghostly produced is nothing. What's more, in front of feelings, there is no sex ratio. What's more, that world had a lot of potential. Other things aside, there's still quite a lot of treasures. Chapter 1801. Wang Feng didn't boast to Yin Mingyao. There were indeed a lot of treasures in the immortal execution world. Perhaps those treasures were nothing to him. But after the Chaos Green Lotus amplification, they would be of great help to the ancestral realm. There are still too few special terrains in the ancestral realm. Although there are already life, it's still too empty. Most of it was mountains, rivers, and forests. There were no rare fruits, and there were very few resources. Resources, from a normal scientific point of view, needed to be accumulated over a long period of time to gather. For example, basic mineral resources. And in the era when the world was just born, such resources were probably very few. The Qi clan that Bibi Don saw before went to dig for minerals, and there were only a few such towering mountains. Resources were scarce, but the immortal execution world's background was quite similar to the desolate antiquity era. The resources there were accumulated over a certain period of time. After the amplification of the Chaos Green Lotus, it could be amplified to the same strength as the ancestral realm for the life in the ancestral realm to use. On the other hand, the resources in Ying Zheng's world were relatively backward. Not to mention other things, the two things that Zhang Xiaofan offered are not bad. Wang Feng opened his palm, and 5 pale golden papers appeared in front of him. This was the heavenly book of the immortal execution world. In that world, the concept of heaven and earth contained in this heavenly book gave birth to the 3 sects of Buddhism, Demon, and Tao. To a certain extent, it belonged to the origin of all laws, because the founders of the 3 sects of Buddhism, Demon, and Tao all cultivated from the heavenly book. Of course, from Wang Feng's point of view, this was a very powerful immortal technique. It belonged to the cultivation method of another immortal world that had never appeared in the immortal execution world, but it did exist. In the immortal execution world, there was a saying of ascension. It meant that the immortal cultivators in the immortal execution world would eventually enter another world. And in fact, when Biao was resurrected, Wang Feng sensed the thunder punishment from the heavenly Tao of that world. The immortal execution world did have this superior world. It should also belong to a great world. It belonged to a proper immortal civilization. And the one who sent down the thunder punishment was naturally the immortal life form that controlled the immortal execution world. For the immortal civilization, how could the karma of the immortal execution world be easily changed? Naturally, he wouldn't allow it. However, he was frightened by Wang Feng's stare and disappeared. For such a large world, it was not so easy to obtain faith from it. The top powerhouses of the immortal Tao civilization were also existences who could touch the life forms of the universe. And it was very difficult for such an existence to believe in other gods, unless he used the method of the divine system universe and directly used brute force to conquer, leaving behind a divine imprint and bestowing power. It was just like how the god of death had turned Karl into a minion in the god-surpassing universe. Of course, for Wang Feng, as long as he spent some time, he would be able to cultivate believers without using that method. However, what they lacked the most right now is time. Moreover, with the increase in faith from the Chaos Green Lotus, Wang Feng did not need to spend so much time in the great world to cultivate believers, unless he was lucky enough to meet an extremely weak child of destiny. For example, people like Yi Fan. After Yi Fan experienced the 9 dragons pulling the coffin and entered the Eastern Wasteland, there would be endless resources. As long as Yi Fan could casually sacrifice 2 items, the benefits would be unimaginable under the amplification of the primal Chaos Green Lotus. This heavenly book scripture is just an ordinary cultivation method, Yin Mengyao said after thinking for a while. What's the use of it? It's not even as good as that stick. No. Wang Feng shook his head slightly. The 5 volumes of the Heavenly Book are an enlightenment cultivation method. Many of the cultivation concepts in it are very suitable for the newborn human race. It just so happens that the current human race has given birth to different races with different personalities. Then, I'll use the primordial origin to analyze and modify the 5 volumes of the Heavenly Book and place them in the ancestral realm to form a complete cultivation system. At least, it's suitable for the current human race. Right now, the human race only had strength, but their cultivation methods were hazy and obscure. If this continued, only the 3 special human spirits that Wang Feng had given the power of faith would be able to reach a higher level. But in fact, the cultivation methods were very scarce. Wang Feng used the primordial origin to deduce a new set, which would take a lot of time. But now that there was a ready-made one, he basically did not need much time. Wang Feng only needed to use the model of the ancestral realm and a lot of data, as well as various data of the advanced human race. Using the primordial origin source as the database, and then using it as the Heavenly Book's 5 scrolls, he could deduce a complete set of systems. Moreover, because it was an enlightenment cultivation method, the human race in the ancestral realm could also create other cultivation methods based on this foundation. It could quickly reach the level where hundreds of flowers bloomed and experts emerged in large numbers. In fact, this kind of enlightenment cultivation method would have a great impact on the Monster Beast clan, which had just awakened and possessed greater strength than before. As for this stick, its usefulness is relatively small, Wang Feng muttered. This stick itself is a combination of 2 kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the immortal execution world. It has no effect on me at all. After using the chaotic green lotus to enhance it, I'll return it to Ghostly when he makes his next sacrifice. Ghostly is the child of destiny of the immortal execution world. Now that Bai Yao has awakened, his path will not stop. Nurturing him is the right way. Wang Feng was a man of action. After making a plan, he immediately carried it out. First, he modified the 5 volumes of the Heavenly Book. The concept of these 5 volumes derived the 3 cultivation philosophies of Buddhism and Demon Tao. Wang Feng deduced on this foundation and added the life philosophies of the Divine Tao, Azura Tao, Spirit Tao, Yin-Yang Tao, and Monster Tao. Because the remaining paths were the 9 paths of reincarnation that Wang Feng would create in the future, as well as the living races of the ancestral realm. Therefore, the 5 volumes of the Heavenly Book were strengthened to become 9 volumes. Each volume contained the life philosophies that he did not understand, and contained the profound principles of the universe. It directly surpassed the basic principles of the immortal execution world. It rose to the level of the universe. The name also changed from the 5 volumes of the Heavenly Book to the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian. Put the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian in the ancestral realm. Wang Feng said slowly. Yes, Master. The gift of the ancestral god was for the entire ancestral realm. Ancestral realm. On the vast and boundless ancestral realm, 9 mountain ranges that were as tall as heaven and earth suddenly rose from the ground. They were located in 9 different positions of the ancestral realm. What is that? At this moment, in the center of the human tribe, Human Emperor, she looked into the distance at the huge stone pillar that suddenly rose up and almost reached the sky. He had never seen such a spectacle in his hundreds of years of experience. The ancestral god statue, is glowing. At this moment, an extraordinarily handsome man beside him shouted loudly. The man's face was burly and his body was like a giant. His eyes were calm and suppressed some surprise. End of chapter. Chapter 1802. This was Emperor Shi's deputy, Rui. He was also the ancestor of the Qi people. The current Qi people were all of his bloodline. It seems that this is a miracle. The tribe that explored the Thousand Sound Soil said that in the distant north, there are also stone pillars that are as tall as heaven and earth rapidly rising from the ground. Another man with a calmer expression also walked over. This was Emperor Shi's other deputy, Rui, one of the strongest races of the human race, the Rui human race. The Rui human race had super endurance and speed. They were better than the Qi people who were good at climbing mountains and traversing ridges. The Rui human race was agile and good at hiding their presence. Like the Qi people, they were good at exploring unknown areas. The ancestral god statue is glowing. This means that this is a miracle. Human Emperor, she pondered for a moment and said, "Call the leaders of the various clans and climb the stone pillar with me to observe. If the ancestral god has given us a miracle, then there must be great mysteries in that stone pillar." The 2 deputies quickly nodded. Then they gathered their men and rushed toward the stone pillar with Human Emperor Shi. It has been placed. The humans are very agile. They should be able to see the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian carved on the stone pillar soon. Yin Mengyao observed. Wang Feng nodded slightly. As long as they can observe it, with their wisdom, they should be able to comprehend their own cultivation method from the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian and open their own cultivation path. The 9 volumes of the Book of Ian were created by you, Master. As they cultivate, they will definitely produce an even stronger power of faith for you. Yin Mengyao thought for a moment. It's the best of both worlds. When the 9 clans of the ancestral realm gather, they will be able to find their own cultivation method from the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian. This way, the ancestral realm's lives will have stronger faith in you. The clans nurtured this way are not only strong, but also safer and more reliable than the clans obtained through divine power imprints. Their growth is also stronger. They don't even need you to give them power in the future. Now that you mention it, the immortal execution world is not bad. All right, about Zhang Xiaofan's power of faith, Master, do you plan to find a time to sacrifice and place it in the human race? After all, compared to the monster race, the human race only relies on those 3. It was far from enough. If we can nurture a special human, the price will be even higher. Wang Feng said in a low voice. The life of a demonic beast was built using the countless demonic beast models of the primordial world inside the Chaos Bell. The innate stage was too powerful. It was just that most of them had yet to awaken. It's time to take a look at the chat group. Speaking of which, I wonder how Yi Fan and Jing Tian are progressing. In the chat group, Fan Yi, at everyone, this is bad. Something big happened here. Yong and Pawn's waiter, Big brother Fan Yi, what's the matter? Tell me about it. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Something big? Isn't your world very peaceful? As Fan Yi, who often bragged in front of the crowd, he shared many things about the world on Earth. The other group members were the same. Therefore, each of them had a relatively clear understanding of each other's world. Plus, They could upload videos in the group. He could see the appearance of each world, so he had a better understanding of it. People can't turn their backs on me. Did the comet hit Earth that you mentioned happen? Speaking of which, the situation on my side is very good. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. Brother, find a chance to tell me how you did it after unifying the continent and share your experience with me. I should be able to do it soon. I have also made arrangements for the ancestral god's sacrifice. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. No problem. Fan Yi, what's the big deal? Don't tell me that it's the spiritual energy recovery that you told me about before. Fan Yi. No, it's something even more terrifying than the recovery of spiritual energy. Damn it. Do you dare to believe that in my modern society, there's actually a miracle of 9 dragons pulling coffin? I'm in the coffin now and asking for help online. What should I do? The group members listened to Fan Yi seriously. However, his tone was rather relaxed. It was obvious that this fellow was very confident and didn't seem to be afraid of such a thing. On the contrary, he was even more curious. Ding! Fan Yi uploaded a video. Everyone quickly downloaded it. At the same time, Wang Feng, who had just entered the chat group, also saw it. 9 dragons pulling a coffin? Could it be that the plot of shrouding the heavens has begun? Wang Feng was slightly stunned as an interested smile appeared on his face. He opened the video and took a look. As expected, the video was from Yi Fan's point of view. He stood at the peak of Mount Tai and stared blankly at the 9 dragons that looked like they were made of molten bronze flying over from the sky. It was as though they had flown over from the ancient era and were emitting an ancient aura. And the huge coffin behind them, the plot has begun. This son of destiny is about to enter the right path. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. However, he had to join the plot. In other words, he had to help Yi Fan quickly become the celestial arch and reach a higher level. Based on Wang Feng's understanding, even if the flow of time there was faster than here, it wouldn't be able to satisfy Wang Feng's current requirements. At this moment, Fan Yi said, "Other than me, there are also dozens of classmates from my class. The 9 dragons pulling the coffin hit Mount Tai. In order to avoid danger, we accidentally entered the coffin. Now, I feel as though the 9 dragons are going to pull us to another place, to She Ancient Emperor Jade. Fan Yi, these 9 dragons are very powerful. To be able to control such life forms to pull the coffin, I wonder what's in the coffin. It must be the work of a peerless expert. I advise you to wait quietly for now. Don't touch anything in the coffin. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. Cough, cough. I also want to ask you to see if there are any valuable treasures in the coffin. You should listen to Sister Yu. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. I suggest you ask the Ancestor God. I think the Ancestor God should know something. The world cannot betray me. I agree. We don't understand your situation. Only gods at the Ancestor God's level would understand your situation. It's really strange. Fan Yi. I also want to ask, but the Ancestor God ignored me. I can even recite the Great Tao God summoning chapter backwards. Helpless. JPG. Seeing this, Wang Feng pondered for a moment and sent a message. Ancestor God, this is a small matter. There's no need to call me. Fan Yi. Damn, Ancestor God, you actually came out? Ecstasy. JPG. To She Ancient Emperor Jade. Ancestor God above. Hee hee. How are you? The other group members also respectfully sent messages. Fan Yi. Ancestor God, What's going on? Is it a small matter? It's a small matter to you, but to me. Ancestor God. This is your opportunity. Just stay calm and face it. If you encounter danger that you can't face, just call me. After saying that, Wang Feng disappeared. End of this chapter. Chapter 1803. Unknown World. In the boundless starry sky, 9 giant dragons were dragging an ancient coffin behind them like the Milky Way. In the coffin, Yi Fan's soul stared at the Ancestor God's words. Opportunity. If that's the case, I might come into contact with an even more mysterious and powerful force. Yi Fan pondered. The appearance of the chat group had greatly expanded his knowledge. In the past, no matter how big his heart was, he would not be able to maintain such a state of mind in this situation. Now, the ancestor god had personally spoken. This made Yi Fan even more certain. But I can't let my guard down. Since this is an opportunity, I have to take this opportunity to find an opportunity that suits me. To become an expert. At the very least, an expert can see a wider world. Yi Fan did not have much desire for great power. However, he longed to see more mysterious worlds and civilizations. The ancestor god also personally gave a promise that my life is guaranteed. This was what Yi Fan was most grateful for. Although he had been chanting the great Tao god summoning chapter for some time, he thought that the ancestor god did not notice him at all. He did not expect that the ancestor god had been paying attention to him. The appearance of the ancestor god this time did not seem to help me much, but the advice he gave me has already benefited me immensely. I should encounter some danger this time. Unless it's a critical moment, I shouldn't disturb the ancestor god. Yi Fan thought in his heart. In the chat group, Yangon pawn shop's worker. The ancestor god disappeared just like that? Wow, I just went offline because I had something to do. I have a question to ask the ancestor god. I don't know how long it will take for the ancestor god to appear again. She ancient Emperor Jade. Little boy, what do you want? Yangon pawn shop's worker. It's very complicated. You might not understand. She ancient Emperor Jade. White eyes. JPG. You're just a little boy. What complicated things can you have? Yangon pawn shop's worker, Sai. When the ancestor god appears again, remember to at me. After saying that, the worker went offline. She ancient Emperor Jade. Everyone, how are you guys developing now? Cough cough, I have already become a battle spirit realm expert. Yes, I'm probably a second or third tier expert in this world. I feel that I should be able to become a battle emperor soon. As for this empire, Brother Yin and I have already begun to spread the glory of the ancestor god. I've also found some treasures that I plan to offer to the ancestor god to repay his kindness. Although Wang Feng had left the chat group, he could still receive the messages. Peeping? Douling. How long has it been? Looks like the speed at which I pull out seedlings is a little fast. Wang Feng thought for a moment. Speaking of which, that's right. That fellow Xiao Yin practices the flame mantra. That kind of chi method allows one to absorb heavenly flames to train. The heavenly flame that is swallowed can still be used. The wisp of karmic fire seed that I gave each of them was enough to bring the flame mantra to the next level. Their initial cultivation speed had greatly increased. No wonder their cultivation speed was so fast. Moreover, it looks like this fellow Xiao Yin is doing this because of me. I confessed to Xiao Sun Air in advance. After all, Yao Lao's matter couldn't be hidden that day. If he had confessed earlier, given his relationship with Xiao Sun Air, it would have been around this time. Then, Xiao Yin might have told Xiao Sun Air about the flame mantra. Otherwise, Xiao Sun Air would not have been so quick. This guy is also a romantic. Wang Feng thought for a moment and felt that their speed was still a little slow. However, he did not know how long it would take for Xiao Yin to finish swallowing all the heavenly flames in the continent. I should find an opportunity to give him a wisp of sun essence flame to increase their speed. Suddenly, Wang Fengxin's heart moved. Xiao Yin has such a big change in his early days. I wonder if Nailan Yinran's classic annulment of the marriage happened. Speaking of which, this special child of destiny had secretly sensed me that day. Wang Feng shook his head slightly. He had sensed it before. However, Wang Feng was not interested in this child of destiny. He did not deal with it. At this moment in the chat group, borrow another 10,000 years from heaven. She ancient God Jade, we have already started to develop the power of the stars. Moreover, we have built a rough training system around the cultivation of the stars. What is interesting is that when we cultivate and absorb the power of the stars, we will awaken different abilities. We have named this ability Star Spirit. Now, our 100 schools of thought have different star spirits. This has greatly increased the potential and strength of the human race. Star Spirit? Wang Feng was slightly taken aback. Could it be something similar to a martial soul? Back then, Wang Feng had casually picked an energy star from the Douluo universe and directly crushed it. Then, it turned into boundless energy and formed that waterfall of stars, sprinkling energy onto the great Qin world. As for what it would change into, Wang Feng had not thought about it. Borrow another 10,000 years from heaven. Currently, with the power of the star spirit, the great Qin army is becoming stronger and stronger. It has already begun to spread to the ordinary people. We have also recovered more than half of the territory that the demons have taken. At most, we should be able to suppress the demons to the northern border in a few months. The situation is very good. I plan to wait until we have completely defeated the demons before holding a grand sacrificial ceremony. This time, we will prepare a large amount of demon blood as well as many precious items. We will sacrifice them to the ancestor god to thank him for his grace. Hearing this, Wang Feng nodded slightly. The great Qin world had stabilized. Not only was the power of faith slowly stabilizing, but it was also slowly contributing precious resources. It could be said that the situation had stabilized. What we need to pay attention to is that if the god behind the demons comes, he will definitely destroy the great Qin world. At that time, we will need to descend and deal with that god. Wang Feng pondered. Those demons were a kind of god's spawn. Perhaps they were ordered to invade the great Qin world. They originally thought that it would be easy. After all, this was a feudal empire with an extremely low level of civilization and cold weapons. Now, they had encountered a huge counterattack and the world had changed. Once the demons were defeated, the god behind them would definitely be alerted. Perhaps he had already been alerted, but had not yet made a move and was observing in the dark. At this moment, Ying Zheng finished speaking. Cao Cao spoke. As for my side, saying that the situation is very good is not enough to describe it. I have been thinking for another 10,000 years about the matter of founding a country. Now that the entire world is in the bag, the main thing is the momentum. Our army is strong to begin with. That ancestor god descended and revived hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the blink of an eye. The other two factions basically do not even have the thought of opposing us. Even if these two factions have extremely powerful generals and strategists. End of chapter. Chapter 1804. But without the will to fight, it's basically impossible for them to go against me. How should I put it? The other two forces think that I'm the chosen one, chosen by the heavens. They've already surrendered to me one after another. Sigh, being invincible is so lonely. Ying Zheng didn't seem to have expected this and was very surprised. Logically speaking, just one war was not enough to determine who was the master of the entire world. Even if they were struggling at death's door, it might drag on for more than 10 years. Especially when the other two forces were originally in a state of alliance. After losing a crucial war, it was impossible for them to fall apart so quickly, not to mention surrendering. However, after hearing the latter's words, he understood. Indeed, based on the video that day, the two armies fought. They had already won. In the end, all the soldiers on one side were resurrected. With such a mighty force, even if these resurrected soldiers were not much different from before, the other party had no will to fight. It was too terrifying. In the future battles, even if they had a powerful plan and power, they would consider this point. If the other party was resurrected, how should they fight? They couldn't fight. It was just a meaningless struggle. The army had no morale. The leader had no will to fight. Then, they could only surrender. As long as the golden name of the ancestor god was behind them. Even if the ancestor god didn't descend, it would still be a deterrent. This kind of invisible help had even greater influence. When Wang Feng heard Cao Cao's words, he just smiled. In fact, because the world Cao Cao was in was very different from the three kingdoms in history. Moreover, the trajectories were not the same. Even without his help, if it went according to normal progress, Cao Cao might not lose at Red Cliff. Because in the world of the three kingdoms, many schemes were useless. Martial strength was more important than everything. It was because that world was obviously special that it attracted the attention of other gods, which led to Cao Cao's side being attacked by the dimension reduction. That god wanted to use the sun's essence fire to defeat Cao Cao, the chosen one, and then unify the Lu, Sun, and Chao families. Unfortunately, because of the chat group, Wang Feng interfered. He ruined his wishful thinking. Cao Cao's side is also on the right track, but the miracle will still happen. Wang Feng thought for a while. As for what the miracle will be, we'll see when the time comes. The potential of the generals and strategists of the middle and high martial nations was still very great. Although there was no need to take them as his followers, the power of faith they could produce was still extraordinary. I'm afraid it can't compare to the Child of Destiny. But with the Chaos Green Lotus amplification, the power of faith is enough to nurture a group of special ancestral realm creatures. The progress of these worlds made Wang Feng quite pleased. At this rate, the power of faith would increase by a large amount during the next sacrificial ceremony. There was no need for Yi Fan and Jing Tian to build the third reincarnation. I wonder how Ghostly is doing. Just as Wang Feng was thinking, he suddenly sensed a special call from Ghostly. Sacrificial ceremony? What does Ghostly want to offer me? The world of immortal execution. Fox Branch Mountain, Ghost King sect. In the belly of the mountain, rolling blood-red clouds pressed down in the cave like clouds. Gulp! Gulp! In front of him, there was a pool of blood that emitted a bone-chilling sound. A strange and evil power surged in the blood pool. Above the blood pool, an ancient cauldron exuded a pure and auspicious aura of the immortal Tao. It was like an immortal treasure, especially when the entire cauldron was surrounded by a dense, auspicious aura. It formed a great contrast with the blood pool below. In the blood pool, 4 giant beasts were on the verge of death. These 4 giant beasts were all ancient divine beasts or ferocious beasts with the ability to turn the world upside down. Tao Tai, Kuei, Huang Niao, and Blackwater Mystical Snake. They were one of the few powerful creatures in the immortal execution realm. However, at this moment, they were all imprisoned here, powerless to howl. A middle-aged man with an aura that seemed to be able to swallow mountains and rivers stood at the edge of the blood pool, watching all of this with an indifferent expression. Next to him was a mysterious man in a black robe. The 4 spirits blood formation has been completed. Next, we just need to wait for a good opportunity, and the sect master will be able to control this chaotic power to create a new world and open the Azura Gate. With supreme divine might, no one in this world will be your match. The mysterious man's voice was hoarse. A cold smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face. He seemed to be smiling. At this moment, a figure walked in from outside. The middle-aged man suddenly turned around and looked at the newcomer, frowning slightly. Ghostly, it's you? Who allowed you to come here without my permission? The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with surprise, as if he was surprised that Ghostly was still alive. Ghost King, I don't know what you're doing, Ghostly said slowly. I don't know what that blood pool is either, but I've already sensed it. This is definitely not something good. I know what your goal is. What do you mean? The middle-aged man said indifferently. Leave this place quickly, and I can pretend that nothing happened. Ghostly shook his head. Ghost King, this blood pool contains an extremely evil power. You want to use this blood pool to obtain more power. Have you ever thought that you can control this power? The middle-aged man looked at Ghostly with a gloomy expression. I'll say it again. Leave this place, and I can pretend that nothing happened. Don't tell me you still want to stop me? No, I don't want to stop you. Ghostly said slowly. I know you want to obtain more power. It's not like what Mr. Ghost said, to make this world submit to you. But you want to destroy the world's righteous path to avenge Bai Yao. Huh? The middle-aged man laughed loudly. His eyes gradually turned cold as he looked at Ghostly. You think you know me very well? Ghostly did not speak. That mysterious man in black robe also did not speak. Just that under the black robe, those eyes seemed to be smiling. I don't know, but someone does. Ghostly said slowly. After he finished speaking, light footsteps could be heard in the cave. Ring, ring. The crisp sound of the bell echoed in the air. In an instant, the middle-aged man seemed to be struck by lightning. His entire person was stunned on the spot. Even the mysterious man next to him seemed to have stopped breathing. Bai Yao. The middle-aged man looked at that emerald green figure and said absent-mindedly, How is this possible? His own daughter had been dead for many years. Only a wisp of her remnant soul remained. Basically, there was no possibility of her being resurrected. If not for that, he would not have such a huge hatred in his heart. However, she appeared in front of him alive. "Father," Bai Yao said softly. "It's me. I'm back." She walked in front of the middle-aged man and hugged him gently. Ghost King, whether it's a real person or not, you have to see clearly a dead person cannot be resurrected. This is a power that goes against heaven and earth. The mysterious man said with a hoarse voice, "It's absolutely impossible." Ghostly at the side laughed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1805. Absolutely impossible? Ghostly smiled and glanced at the mysterious man. Mr. Ghost King's sect was second only to Ghost King. No one knew his background, mysterious and unpredictable. Ghostly knew this blood pool most likely had a very close relationship with Mr. Ghost. But, facing Mr. Ghost's suspicion, Ghostly just looked at Ghost King indifferently. "Yao, are you really not dead?" At this moment, the middle-aged man was stunned when Bai Yao gently hugged him. That familiar breath and tone. Even after so many years, he still remembered. Illusion? Dream? He would rather it was an illusion and a dream. But this was real, so real that it could not be more real. The mysterious man was silent. With his vision, he naturally could see that must be a real person who existed. Breath of life, it cannot be wrong. But how did she revive? Bai Yao had passed away for more than 10 years, leaving only a remnant soul. To have the ability to revive her, that was an unimaginable existence. No matter if it was an ancient artifact or a forbidden secret, it was impossible to completely revive her like before. "I died, but was revived by a god," Bai Yao said softly. In fact, she did not know who revived her. Everything was said by Ghostly God. Ghost King's gaze froze, looking at Ghostly. "Yes." Ghostly said slowly, "This is also the reason why I came here. A god who transcends the universe. A god who is immeasurably supreme. He helped me revive Bai Yao. I know, you may have many doubts in your heart, and many things you do not understand. But you only need to stop this blood pool plan and hand it over to me, then you will know the reason." "Hand it over to you?" Before Ghost King spoke, Mr. Ghost said coldly, "Do you know what this blood pool is?" Ghost King's sect spent so much effort to do it. Now that the plan is about to succeed, you say hand it over to you? Do you think Ghost King will listen to you? Ghost King was silent. He was an ambitious person. This blood pool was the only way to go against the righteous path, especially the Blue Cloud sect's immortal sword formation. If he let it go, then it would be impossible to revive Ghost King's sect. Bai Yao's death only strengthened his purpose, but it was not decisive. This four-spirit blood formation had been planned for decades. Until now, it had entered the completion stage. How could he give up just like that? This is the four spirits blood formation. Now that it has been formed, its power is enough to destroy the heavens and the earth. Now it is already formed. Mr. Ghost had just said half. Suddenly, he was interrupted by Ghostly. "Destroy the world?" Ghostly shook his head and said, "Is it possible to destroy the heavens and earth with a flick of a finger?" Mr. Ghost was speechless. This was just a F*** description. Naturally, it couldn't really reach that level. But the Ancestor God can. Ghostly said calmly, "He can overturn our entire world with a flick of his finger." Mr. Ghost. The Ghost King's breathing paused slightly as he looked at Ghostly with a heavy gaze. "I did not come here to ask you to believe in the Ancestor God like me." Ghostly said, "It's just that I don't want to see you use this four spirits blood formation to commit evil and cause chaos in the world, causing the world to be plunged into misery and suffering. But you guys are unable to handle this four spirit blood formation because, like what Mr. Ghost said, this four spirit blood formation has already been activated, and the evil power contained within is something you guys are unable to control." Mr. Ghost frowned slightly. He did not expect Ghostly to think of this. "Since you know this, why are you still obstructing us?" The Ghost King asked. The four-spirit blood formation used the four ancient mythical beasts as a sacrifice, mixed with the blood of countless wild beasts, and matched with the Ghost King's sex treasure, crouching dragon cauldron. Forming this four-spirit blood formation could activate the power of Azura, allowing all living creatures trapped within to be controlled. It was extremely powerful, and once it was formed, it could not be stopped. I'm unable to handle such an evil thing. But the ancestor god can. Ghostly looked at the rolling blood pool, his gaze flickering. In the second video in the group, he saw the 10,000-year-old brother sacrificing the demon blood, offering it to the ancestor god. So he thought of offering this blood pool to the ancestor god. Firstly, this evil and powerful power, he did not have the confidence to control it, but the ancestor god definitely could. Secondly, with the ancestor god's greatness, facing this sacrifice, he could easily deal with it. It could be considered as avoiding a disaster for this world. He brought Bai Yao here today, naturally for this. Ghostly, although Bai Yao is in front of me now, if it is really the ancestor god that you said resurrected, I am grateful to him. But if you want the four-spirit blood formation, this is impossible. Ghost King lightly shook his head. Hearing this, Ghostly sighed softly. Ghost King was also an ambitious person. Logically speaking, with his knowledge and vision, he should be able to understand. However, the existence of the ancestor god and the existence of the chat group had far exceeded the knowledge of this world. It was already beyond Ghost King's imagination. For him to believe it was naturally impossible. Father, what Xiao Fan said is true. At this time, Bai Yao raised her head, staring at her father. You should believe him this time. If you really want to use the power of the four-spirit blood formation, but can you withstand the pressure brought by this power? At that time, will you still be my father? Now that I am back, I don't want you to be gone. Bai Yao's words made Ghost King's body tremble slightly. There was a slight change in his eyes. Mr. Ghost at the side did not say anything. After a while, Ghost King looked at Ghostly and said in a low voice, "What do you want to do?" Hearing this, Ghostly smiled. Sure enough, bringing Bai Yao here was the right choice. Ancestral realm. Such a dense blood chi. Wang Feng murmured. What did Ghostly use as a sacrifice? It is stronger than the blood of those demons. Could it be the four-spirit blood formation? The mysterious formation formed by using the four ancient divine beasts as sacrifices, mixed with the blood of the four divine beasts. It is extremely rare blood. Wang Feng knew quite a lot about the immortal execution world. In that world, the most powerful force was the immortal execution sword formation. However, that immortal execution sword formation was not too related to the immortal execution sword formation in the primitive universe. It was just that the name was the same. The difference in power was several dimensions. And this four-spirit blood formation was comparable to the immortal execution sword formation. It could be said to be the top force in the immortal execution world. Ghost Lee's other intention of giving this thing is probably to let me deal with this four-spirit blood formation. Otherwise, if it goes according to the original path, there will be a great war with countless casualties. It seems that after Bai Yao's resurrection, Ghostly has deviated from the original path of growth. Not bad. Wang Feng sighed with emotion. He could only feel the billowing blood coming from the immortal execution world, mixed with the power of faith. After the blood is strengthened by the Chaos Green Lotus, its power will be stronger. Moreover, it is the blood of divine beasts. Because of the formation, the blood contains the special power of Azura. Then it is the most suitable first batch of creatures for the Azura realm. The next reincarnation will be the Azura realm. Chapter 1806. Just right, this time I'll return his fire rod to him. This thing that has been strengthened is one of a kind in the world of immortal execution. If nothing goes wrong, with Ghost Lee's strength, even if he faces the immortal execution sword formation, he can do whatever he wants. At the same time, I'll bestow some cultivation and let them distribute it themselves. Wang Feng did not intend to bestow too much. After all, he did not need the latter to become his clan tribe, as long as the power bestowed was appropriate. At the same time, world of immortal execution in the grotto. As Ghostly set up an altar around the blood pool, he chanted the great Tao God summoning chapter. In an instant, the grotto emitted 1,000 rays of light. The flowing blood pool, as if there was no gravity, began to float. Even the 4 mythological beasts in the blood pool also floated along with the blood. Ghost King and Mr. Ghost at the side opened their eyes wide. They saw a giant screen of light across the grotto, descending on the edge of the sky. That is, Ghost King was greatly shocked. He completely could not feel how great that light was, could only feel the slight aura emitted by that light, as if it could destroy the whole world. The power of the 4 spirits' blood formation, compared to it, was like a firefly compared to the stars. The difference was too big. Ancestor God? Ghost King's throat moved, looking at his daughter. For a moment he was speechless. He then glanced at Mr. Ghost at the other side. Even if he was wearing a black robe, his specific appearance could not be seen, but he could see the shock in Mr. Ghost's eyes. At this time, as the blood pool gradually disappeared, the boundless blood flew into the light. As the divine light filled the air, the 4 ancient mythological beasts, as if bearing the power of the divine light, suddenly, as if they were reborn, they emitted excited cries. Almost on the verge of death, at this moment in the divine light, they were reborn from the fire. Among them, the biggest change was that black water, mystical snake, almost left with only its body in the divine light. It was revived in the blink of an eye, and shed its skin. 2 horns grew on its head from a snake to a dragon, emitting a supreme majesty. This scene caused Ghost King and Mr. Ghost's heart to tremble. At the same time, in that light, there seemed to be a bloody black divine light, like a stream of light descending, standing upright in front of Ghostly. At the same time, a ray of divine light fell on Ghost Lee's body, condensing into 10 light nuclei. A sacrifice merit. Bestow a heaven spiritual treasure. Cultivation of 60 years, you can distribute it. The calm voice, the light gradually. Ghost Lee's pupils constricted as he looked at the fire stick floating in the air. Isn't that I offered to the ancestor God? Ghost Lee's hand, ghost, unlike before, there was only a cold touch. This magic treasure was a combination of the ancient magic staff, soul catcher, and the blood-devouring pearl. It was originally an extremely evil magic treasure. It was able to absorb large amounts of blood and recover from its injuries. There were also many other wonderful uses. However, if this magic treasure was used for a long time, it would easily affect one's mind. At the same time, it would also cause a lot of damage to one's body. Ghostly knew that because he cultivated the heavenly tomes, he was compatible with the cultivation methods of Buddhism, Demon, and Taoism. That was why he could barely use this item. However, at this moment, he could only feel that this magic treasure seemed to have been cleansed and strengthened by some mysterious power. When he held it in his hand again, there was no tearing sensation like when he used it. Instead, there was only a gentle and majestic feeling of power. A strange energy flowed from the staff to his entire body, nourishing his body and making him stronger all the time. In the world of immortal execution, among the grades of magic treasures, Ghostly had never heard of acquired spirit treasures. But from the name, it was obvious that this was a very powerful level. At least, not in this world. I didn't expect that the ancestor god didn't want my treasure. Instead, he strengthened it. Ghostly sighed in his heart. Come to think of it, how could an existence like the ancestor god possibly need his own magic treasure? Moreover, with the identity and status of a universe-enlightened ancestral god, he'd lowered himself to strengthen a magic treasure used by a cultivator like Qin Shi. This was already a display of extreme importance to Qin Shi. As for the remaining 60 years of cultivation, that was 600 years of cultivation. To Ghostly, it was not as important as this soul-devouring staff. Ghostly turned around and looked at Ghost King. He chuckled. Do you believe me now? With his current strength, even if the 4 spirits' blood array was still there, he was not afraid of the Ghost King. He could even defeat them easily. Both of them were silent and speechless. No one would believe such a thing if they had not seen it with their own eyes. But now that they saw it with their own eyes, they felt like they were dreaming. Ancestor God, Ghost King murmured, his eyes flashing. That power that he had never seen before made him yearn in fanaticism. The Ancestor God has no interest in the struggle of our world. Ghostly said indifferently. I also don't want there to be any struggle between good and evil in our world. Ghost King, now that you've seen a higher level of power, are you still interested in the struggle of this world? Ghost King remained silent. The cultivation bestowed by the Ancestor God is not important to me. Ghostly looked at the 10 light cores in his palm. These were obtained by sacrificing the 4 spirits' blood array. I don't need them. You can have them. With that, he threw the 10 light cores in front of Ghost King. You. Ghost King looked at Ghostly with a complicated expression. Zhang Xiao fan, I didn't expect that after so many years in my Ghost King sect, you're still the same Zhang Xiao fan. Ghostly smiled and did not say anything. Ghost King thought for a moment and said slowly, the Ancestor God will be the God that my Ghost King sect believes in from now on. Ancestral realm. I've harvested another large wave of power of faith. I didn't expect that Ghostly's sacrifice this time would have such great benefits apart from the 4 spirits' blood array. Wang Feng nodded slightly and counted the gains of this trip. Not to mention the Death Spirit blood array that contained the power of Azura. He also obtained 4 ancient divine beasts of the immortal execution world. The ancient divine beasts had some bloodlines with the demonic beasts of the primitive universe in the primal chaos. With a little nurturing, they could also become overlords in the ancestral realm and reach the level of a saintly clan. There was also the power of faith of Ghost King sect. The current Ghost King sect had destroyed most of the demonic sects in the immortal execution world. Among the demonic sects, it was one of a kind and very large. This large wave of power of faith was not small. Ghost King sect is mostly demonic and heretical cultivators. The color of the power of faith produced is also mixed with a bit of gray and black. This means that the power of faith produced by faith is mostly impure. That's true. Wang Feng was not worried about this. As long as he needed to use the Chaos Green Lotus to enhance it, the power of faith would still be of great use. With this batch of continuous power of faith and the power of faith I've stored these days, I should be able to start opening the 3rd reincarnation. Wang Feng pinched his chin and thought. After all, with suitable blood and power of faith, the first batch of creatures of the Azura realm can be created. Chapter 1807. The Azura path controlled the order of killing and was fearless of heaven and earth. In the vision of the 9 paths of reincarnation, the ancestral realm's 9 paths and 9 clans each had their own characteristics. The Azura path was also the Azura clan. In Wang Feng's vision, it controlled the order of killing and was not afraid of anything in the world. It was fearless and good at killing, brave and good at fighting. He wanted to create such a race. Special materials were needed. From the flesh to the choice of blood, it could not be similar to the human race or the monster race. The human race was the easiest to create because the conditions were not harsh. Moreover, it was extremely inclusive. Because the monster race had the primordial creature pattern inside the Chaos Bell, it was equivalent to having the genetic code engraved. As long as those patterns were input into the primordial origin, it could be created relatively easily. However, the other races had harsher conditions compared to the other races. Fortunately, this batch of blood and power of faith met the conditions to create the Azura realm. It's not suitable to use the ancestral realm's living soil for the Azura's body. However, in the Dark Demon realm, the demonic earth nurtured by the Dark Demon Chi is very suitable for the Azura. The Dark Demon Chi itself was a very powerful energy, but it was biased towards negative energy. For example, the soul demons of the Dark Demon realm were affected by the Dark Demon Chi. Most of their bodies were very powerful, but their minds and souls were biased towards darkness. This kind of darkness had no distinction between good and evil. It was just a pure energy nature. Of course, dark energy was ultimately dark energy. Over a long period of time, it would naturally affect the souls of living beings who absorb the dark demon chi. Using the demonic earth of the dark demon realm and the living soil of the ancestral realm can be used to create the Azura clan's body. The blood in the four spirits' blood formation has been enhanced by the Chaos Green Lotus. I can achieve the effect I want with the help of this batch of Ghost King Sex faith power. The combination of the three should be able to create the Azura I envision. Wang Feng thought as he arrived at the Hell World. The two rays of light behind the sea of bitterness were like gates that connected heaven and earth, shining with divine light. The establishment of the Azura path of reincarnation still needs a batch of faith power. Wait a moment. I'll go to the dark demon realm first. Wang Fengxin's heart moved. With a flick of his finger, he tore open the void and entered. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the region of the dark demon world. I haven't been here for a while, but the dark devil world hasn't changed much. It seems like the number of wormholes has increased slightly. Wang Feng shook his head. Other than that, the number of demon gods in the dark devil world was also rapidly increasing. For a great world that was already on the right track, its development speed was indeed quite fast. However, compared to the current ancestral realm, it was much, much slower. When the ancestral realm's 9 paths are established, I'll connect all the living beings in the universe to the ancestral realm and make them work for me. That's not a bad idea. Wang Feng pondered for a few seconds. The ancestral realm corresponded to the former primitive universe. The upper limit of the laws wasn't a universe-level life form. Instead, it was a boundless universe that covered an extremely wide area. For such a large world, it was very difficult to break through the upper limit of universe-level life forms. Devil lands were everywhere in the dark devil world. This kind of soil that contained dark devil chi was very difficult to grow all kinds of plants. Therefore, the resources in the dark devil world were extremely scarce. However, there were several realms in the dark devil world, and the quality of the devil earth was not the same. Wang Feng went directly to the Clear Sky Palace to find Yin Qingjue. Using the authority of the dark devil world's heavenly Tao, he could easily obtain the soil of the dark devil world's 9 realms. You want the devil lands of the dark devil world? Yin Qingjue was quite puzzled. However, it was quickly solved. You plan to create the Azura path. Yin Qingjue was clear about the concept of the ancestral realm. Wang Feng didn't hide it from her. After all, he had told Yin Qingjue about the plan of the chat group back then. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Just using the devil lands of the dark devil world should be very difficult to create your ideal Azura race, right? Yin Qingjue thought for a moment. It seems that you've prepared all the materials? Of course, she didn't think that Wang Feng would only use the devil lands to create. At most, he would use the devil lands as a material. Wang Feng's idea of the ancestral realm was extremely vast. The ancestral realm was equivalent to his god domain. Every race he created was his clan, and in the future, they would participate in the god system universe's god wars. Naturally, he couldn't just casually create them. Wait for a moment. I'll bring you a portion of the devil lands of each realm. Yin Qingjue closed her eyes and seemed to be summoning the other 8 realms. By the way, how's the situation of the chat group? According to my plan, 2 more members might join the group in a few days. Yin Mingyao was usually the one observing the situation of the chat group. Although she was nominally the leader of the chat group, most of the time, she was looking for suitable members for Wang Feng, to ensure that Wang Feng could quickly obtain a large amount of faith power. The chat group. Wang Feng thought for a moment. It should be good. Yin Qingjue glanced at Wang Feng. She didn't care much about the chat group. Basically, other than pulling people in, she didn't appear in the chat group. Therefore, she basically didn't know what happened in the chat group. And Yin Mingyao didn't take the initiative to report, so she didn't know the specific situation. But hearing Wang Feng's words, it should be good. Actually, I have a question. Yin Qingjue suddenly asked. The idea of a chat group is not bad. Compared to the wormhole here, the speed of collecting faith power will be faster. But no matter how fast it is, it will be difficult to establish a god domain in 100 days, right? This Azura realm should be the first ancestral realm that you established, right? With this speed, your god domain might not have completed the basic reincarnation cycle on the day of the god battle. How will you fight the gods from the god system universe? This was actually the question that Crimson God Fox Emperor had before. The members of the chat group were all pulled in by her. Therefore, she was very clear about the worlds behind those members. Even if all the worlds of the group members were added together, the faith power produced would probably be very limited. Wang Feng smiled and didn't explain much. I'm keeping you in suspense. Let's talk about it when the god battle starts. Wang Feng said, but I can tell you that the Azura realm that has been established is already the third reincarnation cycle. The third one. Yin Xingjue was stunned for a long time. Even if she didn't have a very detailed understanding of the god system universe, she felt that it was quite impossible. But since it came from Wang Feng, it was reasonable that he wouldn't lie to her. Naturally, the fewer people who knew about the amplification of the Chaos Green Lotus, the better. Yin Mingyao was the heavenly Tao of the ancestral realm. The development of the ancestral realm couldn't be avoided. Naturally, it was impossible to hide it from her. However, Yin Mingyao and her body of faith had a subordinate relationship. Naturally, she wouldn't speak carelessly, even if Yin Xingjue was the main body that created her. Not long after, the 9 portions of devil soil were sent over. Chapter 1808. Right, there's one more thing. Yin Xingjue coughed twice. Are you talking about BB Don and the others? Wang Feng seemed to know what Yin Xingjue wanted to say. I already know. BB Don told me personally. They left because of their own choice. Thinking up to this point, Wang Feng sighed. All of a sudden, his confidence left just like that. Naturally, he didn't feel good about it. Luckily, there was more. That it's not just them. Yin Xingjue said softly. Wang Feng looked suspiciously at Yin Xingjue. That other than a few from the god world, the silver dragon left too. Maybe she didn't tell you. Yin Xingjue said. Wang Feng was stunned, his expression changing. The silver dragon left? Doesn't that mean there's no one left in the god world? Crimson God Fox Emperor wants to take away all the women by my side? Wang Feng squinted his eyes. Yin Xingjue opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but stopped. Forget it, I know. Wang Feng waved his hand. You want to say that Crimson God Fox Emperor did it for my own good? She's right, but to use such a method to deceive them, I can't accept it. Wang Feng snorted coldly. Crimson God Fox Emperor said there was a way to make them all become universe-level life forms. Wang Feng didn't believe it. She herself was a universe-level life form with an incomplete universe willpower. How could she have a way to make others a universe-level life form? And she was so generous to want to help his confidants. No, it might be true, Yin Xingjue said softly. Wang Feng looked at her in shock. Was it so easy to become a universe-level life form? No, it wasn't an easy matter, it was a matter of luck. Wang Feng had walked his own path, even though becoming a universe-level life form was a matter of course, with the Pangu Axe's will and the inheritance of Origin Calamity, Godly Emperor. However, in truth, he had gone through a lot to reach where he was now. And, even now, wanting to help BB Dawn and the others become universe-level life forms was an extremely difficult thing. It's hard to say for sure. Yin Xingjue thought for a moment and said, Red God Fox Emperor said that many factions in the Divine System universe had some problems, which led to the outbreak of faction wars at the edge of the Divine System universe. Many sky gods died, and the will of the universe left the Divine System universe and fell into the native universes. Hearing this, Wang Feng understood. Coincidentally, in the universe where Crimson God Fox Emperor is in, there are several powerful universe willpower energies. Even though they are all incomplete, they are all opportunities for the native universe to become a universe-level life form. Yin Xingjue explained. However, Wang Feng frowned slightly. If that's the case, I'm afraid that even the Crimson Divine Fox Emperor himself would not be safe. No, it's safe. Although the godly system universe was sending out gods to search for the lost wills of the universe in the various native unit universes, the godly system universe was still in a state of chaos. However, the will of the universe is very difficult to detect. Yin Qingjue said, "That's impossible." Wang Feng shook his head. Although the will of the universe is special, it's impossible for it not to be detected. Furthermore, since it was a god from the godly system universe that died, the will of the universe there would definitely have left an aura imprint. It would be very easy for the godly system universe to find it. No, Yin Qingjue said slowly. Crimson God Fox Emperor said that if it was in the past, it would be like this. However, this time it's different. What's different? Because this time, there's a branch origin of the will of destiny mixed in with the origin of the will of the universe. It covered all the aura and imprints of the incomplete will of the universe. Even the godly system universe would not be able to detect anything. Hearing this, Wang Feng was slightly stunned. Ancestral realm. Wang Fengxin returned with a face full of thoughts. The will of destiny. In the current multivariate universe, among all the known wills of the universe, the will of destiny was the most mysterious and powerful. Not to mention the will of destiny. Even the many branches of the origin of the will of destiny were mysterious and unpredictable. They were all very difficult to obtain. Back then, Crimson God Fox Emperor had said that if he cultivated the primordial wheel-time soul, he would be able to touch the main origin of the will of destiny, the karma origin. It could be considered an opportunity related to the will of destiny. However, now that Wang Feng had cultivated the primordial wheel-time soul to great success, he had slightly touched the karma origin. However, if he wanted to comprehend it, he still needed some time. One could imagine how mysterious the will of destiny was. Collecting his thoughts, Wang Feng started to create the Shuro race. The 9 portions of demonic soil had different qualities. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. He took a bit of each demonic soil and merged it with the living soil of the ancestral realm. A piece of blood-red soil appeared in Wang Feng's palm. The soil had a faint evil aura, but it also had the gentleness of the living soil. Then, Wang Feng started to use the soil after the 9 portions of demonic soil to create a body. From a genetic point of view, Wang Feng was writing a genetic program for the Shuro race. If the body is brave and aggressive, then the body can be a weapon. The 4 limbs and 5 senses can be used as weapons. Using the human body as a model, the 4 limbs contain powerful destructive power. 4 limbs might not be enough. I might as well make it 3 heads and 6 arms. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. 3 heads and 6 arms would increase the cost of materials. But Wang Feng didn't care. He only needed to create the first batch of Shuro race and let Yin Mengyao control the development of the ancestral realm. He would have an endless supply of power of faith to ensure the speed of the race's reproduction. Moreover, the first batch of Shura had to be very powerful. Unafraid of heaven and earth, the Shura race must have a powerful demonic eye. Once the eye opens, they will not fear the might of any other race. Moreover, the demonic eye will contain different kinds of mighty power and provide different kinds of help to the Shura race. Wang Feng pondered for a long time. The Shura body was gradually completed. As long as he had the first body, Wang Feng would repeat the same process and create dozens of such bodies. Inject the Shura blood. Wang Feng injected the blood from the 4 spirits' blood formation that had been strengthened by the chaotic green lotus into the dozens of bodies. The moment the blood was injected, Wang Feng's eyes flickered. When the blood flowed into the dozens of bodies, an enormous rhythm of life vibrated from the bodies. After being enhanced by the chaos lotus, the blood has become so powerful. It has a high compatibility with the body. Looks like I was right. Wang Feng took a deep breath. When the blood fused into these bodies, it was as if the genetic code written by Wang Feng had been activated. In an instant, these bodies began to produce earth-shattering power. Next, I'll inject the power of faith into the bodies and create souls for them. Because the Shura race was special, there weren't many of them. Wang Feng took a portion of the purified souls and injected it into the bodies. Together with this special batch of power of faith, it's done. Dozens of pillars of light shot into the sky and hit the sky of the ancestral realm. End of chapter. Chapter 1809. Wang Feng looked at the dozens of light pillars and immediately ordered, Yin Mingyao, send them into the Azura path of reincarnation. They were still in hell. If they wanted to enter the ancestral realm, they had to go through the 9 paths of reincarnation. Now that the Azura was formed, its physical body and many abilities had been written like a genetic code. All that was left was to send them into the 9 paths of reincarnation. Then they would enter the ancestral realm. Okay, Yin Mingyao was already prepared. She could send the Azuras wrapped in the light pillars into the newly established Azura path of reincarnation. Now the Azura path is on the right track. Wang Feng let out a long sigh of relief and immediately returned to the ancestral realm. At this time, the stars in the sky of the ancestral realm seemed to be turning upside down. A light curtain like an aurora emitted a faint blood-colored light. It seemed that some powerful life form was about to descend. The awakened demonic beasts looked at the blood-red aurora in the sky with a solemn look in their eyes. On the human side, the leaders of many tribes also looked at this scene with confusion and shock in their eyes. Such a powerful life force. I hope the ancestral god will protect us. Low murmurs spread among the human tribes. The blood-red laser gave them an innate sense of foreboding. They didn't know what kind of powerful life form would appear and what kind of danger it would bring to the human race. Wang Feng and the ancestral realm looked at the blood-colored laser in the sky. Dozens of halos fell like meteors. They were the dozens of Azura spirits he had created. They had descended on the ancestral realm through the Azura path of reincarnation. As expected, the Azuras created by using all kinds of materials are much stronger than demon beasts and humans. If I can find the 9 scrolls of the Book of Ian that descended on the ancestral realm and find the correct cultivation method, their strength will probably increase. Wang Feng was quite satisfied. However, he didn't leave and continued to watch. He waited until the halos falling from the blood-colored aurora slowly disappeared. The Azuras began to breathe in the ancestral realm. These born Azuras were born with powerful innate consciousness. Almost as soon as they woke up, every single Azura knelt towards the sky. They didn't kneel to heaven and earth, but to the ancestral god who created them. Wang Feng smiled faintly in the sky. Since you are Azuras, let's test it out. Let's see how strong you newborn Azuras are. In the chat group, Ghostly uploaded 2 videos. Ghostly, everyone from now on, I'm also a believer of the ancestral god. If there is a need, we can help each other. Let me introduce myself. I come from a rather ancient, immortal Dao world. I'm a cultivator. Fan Yi, you can't be of the ancestral god. The eternal peace is Pi. That's very similar to my side. We also have cultivators here. For example, I'm going to meet this old man from the Shushan sect. Ghostly, where can you fly on your sword? 2. The eternal peace is Pi. Then, are there real immortals in your world? Previously, I met a red-haired man. He said that I was General Fei Peng from the divine world. What a joke. I'm just a pie shop worker. What General Fei Peng from the divine world is here? This is too ridiculous. Using old brother Fanye's words, that red-haired man is too Chinibyu. Even the divine world is here. I really have to hand it to him. Ghostly, little friend, I think that what he said might be true. Since your world is also an immortal Dao world, there must be a superior world. It is normal for there to be a divine world. Fanyi, I agree with Ghostly's words. It might be true. Also, I have a feeling that the flag you set up is very likely to be true. Let's not talk about it anymore. My situation is urgent. I'm really being chased by a huge crocodile. My life is in danger. If I'm not around, remember to help me burn a few incense sticks at this time every year. Everyone, Tushi Ancient Emperor Jade. Fanyi, at this time, Don't you know how to summon the ancestral god? Fan Yi, damn. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Wait, I will summon the ancestral god immediately. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. Ghostly, you are also from the immortal Dao world? What is your identity? What is your status in that world? Don't tell me that you are also a little friend? All right, how did you become a believer of the ancestral god? Oh, there's a video. Let me take a look. Ing Zheng seemed to be answering his own question. Ghostly, well, my status is not important, right? I'm just an ordinary cultivator. Two she ancient Ember Jade. Those who say that they are ordinary are definitely not simple. Brother Yin said so. Supporting cheeks. JPG. Ghostly. Cold sweat. JPG. Actually, Ghostly didn't really want to appear in the chat group. But when he thought about it, since he had already joined the group, it was better for him to come and greet them. However, there seemed to be a few believers in the group who hadn't become the ancestral god yet. They were all quite friendly. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. Ghostly not bad. I didn't expect that the descent of the ancestral god would only revive a person. You are quite lucky to be able to summon the ancestral god like this. That little friend and Fan Yi, I don't know how many times they chanted, but the ancestral god didn't descend even once. Two she ancient Emperor Jade. This might be because Ghostly has deep feelings for the woman who was revived. So when he chanted the scripture, his faith was very strong. The ancestral god felt emotional and thus descended. This is definitely not good luck. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. I can't understand the feelings of children like you. Love and love are all fleeting clouds. But Ghostly, I think your status isn't low. All right, do you have any cultivation secret books or something like that? Can I borrow them to take a look? The main thing is that we are studying the power of the stars. Although we have made some progress, we don't have any detailed cultivation methods. We can only rely on the soldiers to try. Once they make a mistake in their cultivation, this soldier might be crippled. From what I see, your world and the little buddy's world are somewhat similar to mine. Perhaps the cultivation manuals on your world are also somewhat useful to us. Hearing this, Ghostly thought for a moment. If it was any other time, he naturally wouldn't agree. But now they were all believers of the ancestral god. Even if it was for the sake of the ancestral god, he had to agree. Moreover, through the video, Ghostly also understood the world of this 10,000 years brother. Now that it was in the stage of development, its future potential was limitless. Ghostly, there is, but it might not be suitable. Maybe it could be used as a reference. After saying that, Ghostly uploaded some simple cultivation methods of the Ghost King sect, as well as the Buddhist and Taoist sects to Ing Zheng. He cultivated the 3 cultivation methods of the Buddhist, Demon, and Taoist sections. He comprehended many of the secret techniques of these 3 sects by chance. Chapter 1810. It wouldn't be a problem for him to take out some now. Borrowing 10,000 years from heaven. Thank you. If you need anything in the future, just tell me. Two she ancient Emperor Jade. 10,000 years. Why don't you ask about the cultivation manuals of our world? Borrowing 10,000 years from heaven. What kind of battle chi is there in your world? It has nothing to do with my great Qin. It doesn't sound reliable at all. Moreover, the power of the stars was bestowed by the ancestor god. It's a ways to use your battle chi cultivation techniques to cultivate it. Two she ancient Emperor Jade. What do you mean? Are you looking down on battle chi? Humph. When I become a battle emperor and break through the void, I will request the ancestor god to go to your world and give you a good beating. Borrowing 10,000 years from heaven. Ha ha. I'll be waiting. Ghostly laughed. The world that 10,000 years was in was indeed somewhat similar to the world he was in. It was just that the level of civilization of mortals was somewhat similar. This 10,000 years was also very respectful of the immortal Dao. Thus, he wanted to find a suitable cultivation technique to cultivate the power of the stars from the cultivation manuals he had here. As for the two she ancient Emperor Jade's world, the difference in civilization was huge. It was obvious that 10,000 years didn't agree with him. It wasn't that he was looking down on it. Speaking of which, Ghostly was most curious about the world that Fan Yu was in. He had just watched the video again. It was clearly a future world without any aura of the immortal Dao. However, 9 dragons pulling a coffin appeared and pulled this group of friends into the universe. It was truly mysterious and vast, causing one to have endless fanciful thoughts. At this moment, Yi Fan didn't have much time to think about it, because he was currently frantically fleeing with a group of classmates. Behind them, there were abyss-like shadows. They were like hands that were rushing towards them. He had a gathering with his classmates on Mount Tai and was pulled into this mysterious area by the 9 dragons. Then, he found an ancient temple in this mysterious area and obtained many treasures from the ancient temple. Because of the ancestor god's hint, he obtained several unique ancient Buddhist treasures. It was also because of these ancient Buddhist treasures that he was able to survive until now. In the shadows behind him, a ferocious giant beast was faintly discernible. Based on his understanding of many ancient books, Yi Fan guessed that the giant beast was the crocodile ancestor. It was said to be the evil spirit that was suppressed by the ancient Buddhist sect. Now that the ancient temple had disappeared, he, who had been suppressed, had reappeared. If we didn't take away those ancient Buddhist treasures, this monster wouldn't have come out, Yi Fan sighed softly. The karma of heaven and earth was difficult to determine. After a few more breaths, the few students who did not obtain any ancient treasures were swallowed up by the shadow. Seeing this, Yi Fan gritted his teeth. If he chanted the great Dao God summoning chapter now, would the ancestor god descend? He looked behind him. In the distance was the place where the 9 dragons descended. Perhaps if they returned to that place and used the 5-colored altars there, they would be able to reactivate the 9 dragons and bring them to another place to escape this place. However, there were bound to be casualties along the way. But these ancient Buddhist treasures will eventually come to an end. Although most of these students have an ordinary relationship with me, and I have no obligation to save them. But Yi Fan looked at the ancient bronze lamp in his hand. This was a supreme treasure of the Buddhist sect. In that case, Yi Fan believed that saving a life was better than building a 7-story pagoda. Otherwise, it would be impossible for that ancient Buddhist treasure to shine so brightly in his hands. Thinking up to this point, Yi Fan suddenly stopped in his tracks. When the other students saw this, they looked at him in shock. Yi Fan, why did you stop? Hurry up and run. A burly male student next to Yi Fan shouted loudly. I don't want to run anymore. Yi Fan shook his head. If we continue running like this, there won't be many people left even if we reach the place where we landed. The burly male student was so angry that he laughed. Yi Fan, I really have to hand it to you. Don't tell me you still want to care about their lives. We're classmates, and you've already shared some of the ancient Buddhist treasures with them. Don't tell me you still want to block that ugly crocodile all by yourself. Why didn't I, Pang Bo, realize that you're so awesome in the past? Although the burly male student was cursing, he stopped in his tracks. He walked toward Yi Fan. However, the students behind the two of them did not stop in their tracks. Save them. Yi Fan shook his head and said, I want to block that crocodile, not to save them. It's because of these ancient Buddhist treasures. Pang Bo was stunned. However, he immediately understood Yi Fan's thoughts. They unintentionally obtained these ancient Buddhist treasures and turned the Great Lane Temple into ashes, which led to the release of the crocodile ancestor. Naturally, this crocodile ancestor had an inseparable relationship with them. If we run like this, who knows how many living beings will die because of this crocodile? Yi Fan slowly said, if we don't seal it again or kill it here, I won't be able to take away these ancient Buddhist treasures with a clear conscience. That's true, but with our strength. Pang Bo coughed twice and said, Yi Fan, I support your idea and spirit, but in reality, we should run now. When we become stronger in the future, we'll come back to deal with this crocodile. You should understand such a simple logic better than me, right? That's right. Under normal circumstances, I would think so. However now, Yi Fan smiled. There's a chance now. We can't deal with this crocodile, but there's someone who can. Who? Pang Bo looked left and right. The shadow in the distance was already very close. It might only take a few seconds for it to completely devour them. Do you believe in gods? Yi Fan said in a low voice. In the past, I was a complete atheist. I know. If it was in the past, I wouldn't believe in gods. Pang Bo thought for a moment. But now, Yi Fan took a step forward. Now, I don't believe in gods anymore. Boundless shadows surrounded him. In the shadows, the crocodile ancestor that was as huge as a curtain opened its bloody mouth. In the shadows, it almost ignored the light emitted by the ancient bronze lamp. It was about to devour Yi Fan. Pang Bo's heart was beating wildly. His blood seemed to have frozen at this moment. He looked at Yi Fan at the side. However, he could only see a mystical light shining on Yi Fan's face. In the next moment, a pillar of light shot up into the sky from Yi Fan's body. It dispersed the surrounding light and shot into the dark sky. It seemed to have opened a gate beyond the heavens. The majestic light emitted boundless majesty from a gate beyond the heavens. The world seemed to have become still at this moment. Pang Bo suddenly took in a breath of cold air. It really worked. Yi Fan opened his eyes and looked at the side. He was extremely excited. The ancestor god has descended. No, what is that? At this moment, Yi Fan was slightly stunned. The ancestor god didn't seem to have descended. There was only a faint light figure. Yi Fan felt that it might be the ancestor god. But what was that gate beyond the heavens? However, in the next moment, Yi Fan saw it clearly. The gate opened. Mysterious warriors with bodies as huge as mountains walked out from a gate. They emitted extremely powerful killing aura that caused the world to tremble. Chapter 1811. Where's the ancestral god? Yi Fan looked at the heavenly gate in the clouds and muttered, "What are these warriors with 3 heads and 6 arms?" The mysterious warriors that came out of the heavenly gate seemed to have come from ancient times. They were majestic and indescribable. Their bodies were covered with a faint layer of blood cocoon that looked like armor. It covered their entire body, leaving only their 3 heads and 6 arms exposed. There was a blood-red slit in between their eyebrows. It looked like a third eye that was about to open. It was extremely mysterious. Yi Fan counted. There were only about 50 of them. "Yi Fan, what are these?" Pang Bo asked in a low voice. He did not dare to breathe. This was because he realized that the crocodile ancestor seemed to be attracted by this scene. It originally opened its mouth to attack Yi Fan, but it stopped the moment the light pillar rose and lit up the sky. It opened the heavenly gate. Then, it immediately turned around and looked at the sky as if it was facing a great enemy. "I don't know," Yi Fan shook his head, "but I think it should be related to the ancestral god. It might be sent by the ancestral god." The moment he finished speaking, among the many mysterious warriors, the 3 warriors at the front stepped on the void and charged towards the crocodile ancestor like giants who could hold up the sky and catch up with the sun. Roar! In the shadows, the crocodile ancestor, which was also huge, suddenly let out a roar. It seemed to be fearless as it went forward. "We encountered it." Pang Bo held his breath. This crocodile ancestor doesn't seem to be afraid at all. Those mysterious warriors that came down from the heavenly gate don't seem to be much. From the previous signs, this crocodile ancestor was a powerful demon that was suppressed by the Tempest Temple. If it was on Earth, it would be a disaster. Although they were not sure what this crocodile ancestor represented in this unknown world, it was definitely powerful and invincible. "It should be," Yi Fan thought for a while and said hesitantly, It should be. The main reason was that Yi Fan did not see the ancestral god descending. He was unsure. Logically speaking, it should not be. The other few in the group had the ancestral god descending personally. Why was there no sign of the ancestral god when it came to him? Damn! It was at this moment that Pang Bo suddenly exclaimed. Yi Fan subconsciously looked over, and his eyes immediately widened. As the crocodile ancestor swam forward, the heavens and earth trembled as its shadow followed it. Its aura was monstrous. But in the next moment, the 3 mysterious warriors raised their hands and hammered down on the crocodile ancestor. The crocodile ancestor was naturally very confident in itself. Plus, it had never seen such a mysterious warrior before. It didn't know the origin of this mysterious warrior, so it couldn't sense the latter's specific strength. However, even the Buddhists of the past could only suppress him. Now, why would he be afraid of these warriors of unknown origins? As he roared, several fists smashed toward the crocodile ancestor. Almost at the instant of contact, the crocodile ancestor's expression changed. A power that seemed to be able to destroy the stars hammered down from the fists. In just one exchange, the crocodile ancestor felt as if its entire body no longer belonged to it. "Who are you?" The crocodile ancestor let out a low roar that was mixed with a majestic spiritual vibration. Bang, bang, bang. However, the three mysterious warriors locked onto the crocodile ancestor from three different positions. Their giant fists hammered down like a storm. Every strike was accompanied by the sound of a planet exploding. Yifan and the others couldn't help but cover their ears. Fortunately, the Buddhists' ancient treasures on their bodies emitted a faint and gentle light that could slightly reduce the damage caused by the sonic boom. However, the crocodile ancestor's head was smashed, and its entire body was a bloody mess. In just the blink of an eye, the shadow was mostly smashed, and it was on the verge of death. The crocodile ancestor didn't expect that these mysterious warriors who walked out of the spatial gate would have such powerful combat strength. Their aura clearly didn't even have a basic cultivation realm. However, just the power formed by the combination of their physical body and blood chi was already so powerful. They were even stronger than the crocodile ancestor. What a monster! "Wait, I surrender, I surrender." Not long after, the crocodile ancestor let out a low roar. It was not easy to get out of the Great Lane Temple. He thought that his good days had just begun. He, the crocodile ancestor, didn't want to be hammered to death by these mysterious warriors. Wouldn't that be too unfair? Aren't they too *king strong? Pang Bo pushed Yifan's shoulder and said excitedly, "Hammering that crocodile is like hammering your own son. I think one of you can hang this crocodile up and beat it up. With the three of you together, TSK, the crocodile's skin and flesh are torn apart. It's simply too horrible to look at." It was more than just too horrible to look at. Every time Pang Bo hammered the crocodile, it looked like he was using a hammer with nails to hammer an ordinary animal's skin and flesh, directly hammering a bloody hole. Blood splattered everywhere. Seeing the crocodile ancestor crying out like a pig that was about to be slaughtered, one could imagine how terrifying each punch of these mysterious warriors was. These must be divine weapons sent by the ancestor god. Yifan's spirit shook. The ancestor god didn't personally descend, but I didn't expect him to be so powerful. Looks like this crocodile is not worthy of him making a move. I'm ashamed. As he said that, Yifan's face was filled with shame. He thought to himself that he had really embarrassed the majority of the members in the group. When someone called the ancestor god down, it was either to crush a planet, to enlighten living beings, or to revive hundreds of thousands of soldiers. In his case, there was only this crocodile, and the ancestor god was too lazy to make a move. Although the ancestor god responded to me, compared to what the other members of the group are facing, mine is simply child's play. No wonder the ancestor god is too lazy to make a move. Yifan thought for a moment and couldn't help but shake his head. There was no other way. Compared to the people in the group, he was too far behind. Only the young man was like him, ordinary and unremarkable, an ordinary person. But the young man's words before probably really could be the reincarnation of some General Fei Peng from the divine realm. An ordinary person is actually me? Yifan slightly clenched his fists. I can't let the ancestor god down. Yifan looked at the crocodile ancestor that had been hammered into a pulp and was on its last breath. He thought very firmly in his heart, not only for the ancestor god, but also for myself. I have to become stronger. So what if I'm an ordinary person? At this moment, Wang Feng could actually hear the voice in Yifan's heart, because, to a certain extent, just now was the moment when Yifan generated faith. This future celestial emperor, Yi, was equivalent to temporarily becoming his believer. An ordinary person. Wang Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The dignified, sacred body of the ancients was indeed an ordinary person. If he was King ordinary, then the children of destiny of the various worlds in the group were all inferior to ordinary people. Fine. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. According to the normal progress, it won't take long for Yi Fan to become a celestial emperor. Plus the flow of time. No, I still have to speed up. Since I'm here, if he grows up according to the normal path, it'll be too slow. Chapter 1812. There were many small worlds in the shrouding sky world, and the time span was very long. In terms of faith power, it was very large. However, the power level of this kind of world was very high. Even the fake gods of the divine system universe did not dare to try. Only those above the heavenly god level would dare to try to conquer this kind of world and collect faith power. At present, Yi Fan had not entered the eastern wilderness and had not touched the edge of this world. Wang Feng naturally wanted to speed up Yi Fan. Of course, he would not rush things. After thinking for a while, Wang Fengxin had a plan. Speaking of which, the Azura's combat power is not bad. Wang Feng muttered to himself. As the crocodile ancestor was beaten into a muggle by the 3 Azuras created by Wang Feng. Of course, Wang Feng saw it clearly. Wang Feng could still feel the strength of the crocodile ancestor. In the shrouding sky world, it was an expert below the great saint level. In the multiverse, it might not be weaker than the demon lord of the dark demon world. As for the newborn Azura, he could beat the crocodile ancestor into kneeling and begging for mercy with just his physical body. His strength was evident. This was the result of him not cultivating and only relying on the strength of his physical body and demon eye. Seems like he has a high starting point. I did not waste my efforts to create him. Wang Feng looked at the Azuras with some satisfaction. What was the concept of newborn? It was equivalent to these Azuras being in the infant state of humans. They could defeat the crocodile ancestor. Most of them had already awakened and knew what they were doing. They also knew that it was him, the ancestor god, who had asked them to come here, to make the crocodile ancestor their opponent. But other than that, he knew almost nothing. Not bad, not bad. The more Wang Feng looked, the more satisfied he was. Compared to the human race and the beast race, the Azura's strength might not be comparable. After all, the human race and the beast race had appeared for a while. But soon, they should be on par with the other 2 races. As for the future development of their strength, it would depend on their own luck and what kind of great Tao they comprehended from the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian. At the same time, let's go. That crocodile is dying. Yi Fan, let's leave here quickly. Pangbo suddenly came back to his senses and said loudly, "Wait." Yi Fan shook his head. "Ancestor God, I can't just leave like this." Pangbo thought for a moment and said, "What you said makes sense, but even if you want to repay the favor, now is not the time, right? Besides, the warriors sent by the ancestral god are so strong that they don't need you to be in such a hurry to repay them." Yi Fan pointed at the ancient bronze lamp in his hand and said, "I'm talking about these ancient Buddhist treasures. Since the crocodile ancestor has already been killed by those mysterious warriors, why don't you take them? In that case, there's no point in keeping these ancient Buddhist treasures in my possession. I want to offer them to the ancestor god to express my sincerity." To the ancestor god, Pangbo asked, "That makes sense. What do you want to do?" Yi Fan placed the ancient bronze lamp in his hand into the light pillar beside him. Then, after thinking for a while, he took out a seed-like object that was emitting a green light and handed it over. It was the Bodhi seed that had fallen from the Bodhi tree under the great Thunderclap temple. Yi Fan felt that it should be very precious, but he had no use for it now, so he might as well give it away. They're all worldly possessions. Yi Fan thought. 2 beams of light rose into the void along with the light pillar. It was as if he had entered the heavenly gate in the clouds. Yi Fan looked at it, wondering if the ancestor god had received it. After a while, the heavenly gate shone brightly. Yi Fan widened his eyes. He saw that the Bodhi seed did not enter the heavenly gate. He directly fell from the sky. However, the moment it fell, a divine light flew out from the heavenly gate. It directly hit the emerald green Bodhi seed. In the next moment, the Bodhi seed immediately emitted a bright light. Then it began to germinate and grow rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it grew into a palm-sized Bodhi tree sapling. As it fell slowly, the sapling gradually grew. When it landed in Yi Fan's hand, it gradually took shape. Yi Fan's eyes widened as he watched in disbelief. A majestic energy was being emitted from this special Bodhi tree. Every time it breathed, it seemed to be able to breathe in a huge amount of energy that could contain heaven and earth. Yi Fan, what's going on? Pang Bo was also dumbfounded. I don't know. Yi Fan looked serious. Maybe the ancestor god didn't like it and returned it to me. Returning it to you? Why did it change so much? Pang Bo was stunned. Yi Fan thought for a moment. Brother Zheng seemed to be the same back then. I'm ashamed. The ancestor god is really too good to us believers. Yi Fan sighed. He gave me a Bodhi seed and returned a Bodhi tree to me. From the looks of it, this Bodhi tree is definitely not ordinary. At this moment, a majestic voice sounded in Yi Fan's ears. This tree will be of great help to your future cultivation. You can keep it in your soul. There's no need to show it to outsiders. Otherwise, you'll regret it and cause a lot of trouble. That was the ancestor god's voice. Yi Fan replied excitedly, Thank you, ancestor god. After saying that, Yi Fan quickly stared at the Bodhi tree. However, after thinking for a while, he did not know how to keep it in his soul, until a few drops of blood accidentally dripped onto the Bodhi tree in his palm because of the minor injuries he suffered. With a thought, he kept the Bodhi tree in his soul. Yi Fan, I've decided. Pang Bo patted Yi Fan's shoulder. From now on, the ancestor god is our common belief. Great ancestor god, please give me some treasures too. I'll definitely be your loyal believer. Get lost. Yi Fan scolded with a smile. You're not sincere at all. When I was on Earth, I prayed for the ancestor god for a long time. It's not as easy as you. Even if you're a believer of the ancestor god now, it's not that easy to get the ancestor god to descend. Do you think the ancestor god is a cat or a dog? You want the ancestor god to descend and give you treasures with just one sentence? Get lost. Damn, we didn't even put in that much effort. Pang Bo retorted loudly. Yi Fan coughed a few times and said, I'm different. I've been fooling around for a long time. The ancestor god is very familiar with me. Ancestor god, when I become stronger in the future, I'll definitely repay you. Yi Fan looked at the divine gate and thought to himself, Ancestral realm. With that Bodhi tree, Yi Fan's sacred body of the ancients should be able to progress rapidly. Wang Feng rubbed his chin and pondered. The Bodhi seed was of limited use to him. Even if it was enhanced by the chaotic green lotus, it could only slightly change the energy density of the ancestral realm when placed in the ancestral realm. However, if he gave it to Yi Fan, it would be of great use. Yi Fan's sacred body of the ancients required a large amount of cultivation resources in the early stages. Otherwise, his progress would be extremely slow. After the Bodhi tree was watered by his divine power, not only would it bear fruit, but it would also nourish a large amount of spiritual chi of heaven and earth to nourish the sacred body of the ancients. At most, Yi Fan's sacred body of the ancients would be able to achieve initial success in a few years. It would take a few decades for it to reach full completion. When that time came, it would take at most a few hundred years for him to become an emperor. He had to make the best use of everything. When the time came, Yi Fan would give him a lot of resources. That would be inexhaustible. Wang Feng was very far-sighted. The little things at the moment would not be of much help to the ancestral realm, unless it was a special Genesis sacred artifact like the Pangu axe or the chaotic green lotus. However, Yi Fan and the others could not come into contact with such a level of sacred artifact. It would be very difficult to come into contact with it, even if it was a few levels lower. Otherwise, they could only rely on quantity, such as a large amount of the power of faith, special blood, and a large number of resources to be of some help. In the chat group, Fanny said, Everyone, I'm back. I declare that from now on, I'm also a believer of the ancestor god. In a chapter. Chapter 1813. In the chat group. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. Congratulations, Fan Yi. You have seen the ancestor god too? The world cannot betray me. What a joke. You're just an ordinary kid. The ancestor god is really letting you off easy by making you a believer. Tell me, what happened? Fan Yi. Brother Chow, I don't like what you're saying. So what if I am ordinary? Can an ordinary person become a believer of the ancestor god? Furthermore, from today onwards, I might be able to cultivate too. Borrowing 10,000 years from the heavens. Fan Yi, you can cultivate too? Did the 9 dragons pull you to another world? Fan Yi. Yes. The 9 dragons pulled me to... This place was called Mars in ancient times. Is also Mars another planet? Now that the crisis has been resolved, I plan to leave this place. Alright, I didn't see the ancestor god. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. How did you become a believer if you didn't see the ancestor god? Fan Yi. The ancestor god didn't descend. He only sent some warriors to help me resolve this crisis. After saying that, Fan Yi uploaded a video. The rest of the group members downloaded it and watched it. Not long after, shocking news came one after another. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. From the aura of that crocodile, I can tell that it is very strong. It is not much weaker than the top experts here. The 3-headed and 6-armed warriors sent by the ancestor god are too strong. They use their fists and bodies to defeat the crocodile so easily. Shocking. JPG. Xiao Suner was too shocked. The ancestor god had never sent any warriors before. Usually, he would personally descend. She didn't expect that not only did he not personally descend, he even sent some mysterious warriors who were so powerful. Xiao said in doubt that if those mysterious warriors came to their world, they would be able to destroy the entire Battle Chi continent easily. 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. I feel that us believers are so weak. I feel that we are relying on the ancestor god to retreat. Fan Yi. Indeed, no one in the world can betray me. It is indeed very terrifying. Furthermore, those warriors did not reveal any other abilities from the beginning to the end. They only used their physical strength to easily kill that crocodile. If that crocodile was placed in our world, the top warriors should be able to fight against it. If we use profound techniques to plan, we can also kill it. But it's impossible to kill him so easily. We believers, the tip of the iceberg was the whole picture. At this moment, Cao Cao was thinking about how great the ancestor god was. Were all the warriors they sent this strong? His strength was immeasurable. On the other hand, it could be seen that Fan Yi had transmigrated to a very powerful world. Otherwise, that crocodile wouldn't have appeared, a powerful creature of this level. Also, the tree that the ancestral god bestowed upon this brat is definitely not an ordinary tree. Cao Cao shook his head slightly. The ancestral god is so good to his believers that I have nothing to say. However, it can also be seen from this that Fan Yi is definitely not an ordinary person. There must be a reason why the ancestor god thinks so highly of him. I thought that I had unified the chaotic world and had countless armies in my hands. Among this group, no one could be compared to me. As a believer of the ancestor god, I have a lot of weight. He didn't expect the warriors under the ancestor god to be so powerful. The forces under the ancestor god's control were probably unimaginable. Cao Cao thought so. In fact, even Ing Zheng had the same thought. As the emperor, they were the first to think of this. The warriors they sent were already so strong, and there were only a few dozen of them. Only 3 of them actually fought. From this tip of the iceberg, coupled with the ancestor god's immeasurable majesty, it was hard to imagine how powerful the ancestor god was. In the group, 2. She Ancient Emperor Jade. I hope I can cultivate properly in the future and strive to be of some use to the ancestor god. Work hard. JPG. No one in the world can betray me. I'm afraid that a little difficult. With the strength of these warriors, it's hard to be compared to them. Borrow another 10,000 years from the heavens. With the current strength of our world, it's indeed hard to be compared to them. but it's hard to say in the future. Our great Qin dynasty will definitely have many geniuses in the future. No one in the world can betray me. That makes sense. Ghostly, in my opinion, the warriors sent by the ancestor god are all immortals. If it's our world, it's hard to catch up, but from another perspective, the ancestor god actually acknowledged us as his believers. It's also a form of affirmation for us. So, Fan Yi, 2, she ancient Emperor Jade. There's no need to belittle yourself. Fan Yi, I'm not belittling myself. It's just that this matter made me understand a principle. In the future, we can't casually summon the ancestor god. This kind of small trouble is too much of a bother to the ancestor god. Ghostly said, No, Fan Yi, you're wrong. With the ancestor god's benevolence and majesty, he won't care about this. The so-called small trouble is just a small trouble to the ancestor god. But to us believers, it's a matter of life and death. Indeed, we can't summon the ancestor god. But if we encounter a problem that's beyond our imagination and we can't solve it, we have to do it. Summoning the ancestor god is our only choice. Think about what the 2 Shi ancient Emperor Jade faced and the demons that the great Qin dynasty faced. It's not something we can solve with our own efforts. The so-called trouble is just a relative term. Fanny thought about this and felt that it made sense. Ghostly said, I think that the ancestor god sent these warriors because that crocodile isn't worth his time. At the same time, he wants us believers to understand his strength and give us a reference to stimulate our fighting spirit. Fanny, that makes sense. Ghostly, how do you know so much? Ghostly, because these days I've been thinking about the ancestor god's greatness. Yes, I've been trying to figure out the ancestor god. We're in different worlds and have different experiences. Naturally, we have different perspectives when looking at the ancestor god. 2 She ancient Emperor Jade, I understand. Ghostly, it seems that you've experienced a lot. Ghostly said, compared to the other 2 who are about to become emperors, my experience isn't considered much. People can't betray me. We've experienced a lot, but it's not as rich as your immortal Dao world. Don't be humble. Borrowing 10,000 years from the heavens. That's right. The immortal Dao is the great Dao that I once yearned for. You're a cultivator from the immortal Dao world. We're far inferior compared to you. On the other side, Wang Feng looked at the screen from the side and laughed secretly. He used the Azura race that he created to deal with the crocodile ancestor purely, because he wanted to test their strength. As for the rest, he naturally didn't think too much about it. He didn't expect these guys to be able to imagine so much. Right, why didn't Jing Tian come out? Wang Feng thought for a moment. The Mortal Sword world was quite important. Now, the other worlds had entered the regular stage. Even Fan Yi had entered the regular stage. Only Jing Tian was left. If it was any other time, this guy would have come out to chat. However, he didn't appear today. Chapter 1814. Let's find a chance to take a look. Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. He didn't sense any response from Jing Tian. Either something had happened to him, or he hadn't encountered anything strong enough to make him have faith in him and call out to him. No hurry. Wang Feng thought for a while. At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly sensed a strong voice transmission. It wasn't from someone in the chat group. It came from another universe. It's Carl? Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. Before he left the God-surpassing universe, he found Carl. However, he didn't destroy him because of the sacrificial ceremony. On the contrary, he gave the fragment that contained the Star River's will to Carl. He planned to use Carl to study the Star River's will in hopes of luring Mo Tiant's true body out. Wang Feng guessed that since Carl wasn't dead, the god of death would definitely contact him again. As for what would happen next, it was highly likely that the god of death would put Carl in an important position. Carl wasn't an ordinary person in the God-surpassing universe. He was several times stronger than the Children of Destiny. In the original work of the God-surpassing universe, he was the ultimate villain boss who schemed against Holy Kaisha and defeated her. Be it potential or strength, he was top-notch. He sent me a voice transmission. Could it be that Mo Tiance has appeared? Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. Wang Feng didn't have high hopes that Carl would contact him. When he let Carl go and gave him the Star Rivers will fragment, he thought that if Carl could really study the fragment, Mo Tiance would definitely appear. As long as he appeared, he would have a chance to find him. After thinking for a few seconds, Wang Feng immediately deciphered the voice transmission. I see. After deciphering it, Wang Feng smiled. At the same time, God System Universe, Kilo God System. In the vast God System universe, Kilo God System wasn't ranked high. It didn't occupy a huge star field. However, there were 5 supreme gods in the God System. They were genuine supreme gods. Naturally, they were a faction that had a say in the God System universe. Supreme gods were above heavenly gods. The so-called heavenly gods in the God System universe were divided into heavenly gods of beginning calamity, heavenly gods of beginning wheel, and heavenly gods of Shirleon. These 3 types of heavenly gods had different levels of strength and were further divided into several tens of levels. At each level, the god realm that was rooted in one's own god realm was divided by the degree of development, the number of spawns, and one's own strength. Just the number of first-order heavenly god realm cultivators was so large. As for overgods, it was even harder to say. But in order to become an overgod, one had to fulfill a certain prerequisite. At the very least, he had gone through 1,000 initial will tribulations. The universe's lifespan was at least 100 million years old. His strength was hard to estimate. Therefore, having 5 supreme gods meant that this faction had the right to speak in the divine system's universe. The god of death, on the other hand, happened to be a heavenly god of the initial wheel. Moreover, he was a heavenly deity who had just passed the initial wheel cataclysm and should have enjoyed the fame and fortune of the initial wheel heavenly deity, as well as the benefits of the various factions. Moreover, he had a divine name. He was a heavenly god who had an official god system in the God System universe. But all of this was gone. If his divine soul was damaged, his divine domain would shake, and his will projection would be damaged. Without the will projection, it would be very difficult for him to maintain his heavenly god rank. Even those who had just passed the initial wheel cataclysm were restless, as if the second cataclysm was about to descend. The initial wheel cataclysm was the nightmare of all heavenly gods in the God System universe. He had just passed the first initial wheel cataclysm with great difficulty, in the god realm. The god of death's throne was purchased from the god realm at the center of the God System universe. It was built in the style of the Douluo divine system. His gaze was fixed on a void. He was just over 50,000 years old this year. He was tall and slender, with a handsome face. He wore a gorgeous black cloak, and a long sword that was as black as ink stood beside the throne, exuding an incomparably majestic aura. Outside the palace, the god of death had the appearance of a human. It was interesting to say that in the God System universe, human genes and appearance were the most popular. Perhaps it was because in the ancient history of the God System universe, one of the first few primal cosmos gods was an ancestor who preached the Tao to the universe with a human appearance. Later on, in the God System universe, countless gods followed suit. At the beginning of their birth, they had already prepared the appearance and genes of a human for their descendants. Of course, in the current God System universe, the appearance of a human was only one of the things that the gods liked the most. Not all gods like the appearance and body of a human. Like the gods of the Douluo divine system, the majority of them had black robes as shadows and did not have a physical body. It was just that the god of death felt that such a body did not suit his aesthetic standards. Thus, when he became a god, he remolded a human body for himself as the body of a heavenly god. The eyes of the god of death were burning with flames. In the sky of the god realm, there were many cracks that resembled blood vessels bursting. It was extremely terrifying. That was the sign that the god realm had been shaken. If one wanted to recover by relying on his own godly energy, it would take at least 10,000 years in the universe. 10,000 years, even to a heavenly god who had passed the initial wheel cataclysm and had a lifespan of more than 100,000 years. It was an extremely long period of time. During this period, not only would they have to face other dangers in the god realm, They would also have to face the risk of their strength falling and having their god name snatched by other newly ascended heavenly gods. A god name was not something that could be casually obtained. Only after becoming a heavenly god would one be qualified to purchase a god name in the god system universe. Only after obtaining a god name would one be considered an official heavenly god in the god system universe. They would be protected by the supreme law of the god system universe. For example, pseudo-gods did not have a god name. Of course, some pseudo-gods with strong backgrounds could also get their families to purchase a god name in advance and be included in the register. For example, the enlightening god of the Dongwang divine system, who had caused a stir in the god system universe. A mere pseudo-god had a god name. Although the god of death was sure that his strength was definitely stronger than that pseudo-god. After all, he was a heavenly god. His status was different. The Dongwang divine system was only slightly weaker than the Douluo divine system. However, the enlightening god was the leader of the younger generation of the Dongwang divine system universe. The resources and background that he possessed were not something that the god of death could compare with. That native heavenly god is so powerful. The enlightening god wants to trample on him and show off the power of the Dongwang divine system. How impressive. The god of death's eyes were cold. I heard that they even signed a holy scroll. The enlightening god wants to use this native heavenly god's ignorance of the rules of the god system universe to defeat him in a god battle. No matter how strong this native heavenly god is, he can't do anything about it. Otherwise, if he violates the rules of the god system universe, the supreme god of the god system universe will have enough reason to kill this native heavenly god. In this way, even other heavenly gods who have submitted to the god system universe will not be able to say anything. This god battle was actually very important. The native heavenly gods were a very special group in the god system universe. Over the years, the god system universe had swallowed many native heavenly gods universes in its crazy expansion and merged into the current god system universe. Unknowingly, the native heavenly gods had formed a group that could not be underestimated in the entire god system universe, although it was not a big deal for the entire god system universe. In recent years, the upper echelons of the god system universe have been trying to assimilate these powerful and unique native heavenly gods, but they haven't found the opportunity. Now they're secretly acquiescing to the god battle caused by the enlightening god, which implies this. The god of death murmured, "It seems that I have to find an opportunity." Chapter 18:15. Carl appeared in the void, wearing a black robe, which suited the style of the god of death's divine domain. He wanted to use me to get information about my god, Carl said indifferently. So, he didn't kill me. He wanted me to stay by my god's side as a spy. Hearing this, the god of death laughed. It was unknown if he was laughing at Carl or at someone else. However, he didn't know my god's rules. Carl said respectfully to the god of death, "I'm your god's descendant. I have no secrets in front of my god. I think my god has already noticed this." The god of death's smile gradually disappeared. He said calmly, "A native god is indeed a native god. He always wants to use their tricks. You have my godly power imprint on you. I naturally know what happened." Spy? Ridiculous. Carl nodded in agreement. Then he continued, "By the way, that native god gave me something called a wolf fragment. My god, do you need me to give it to you?" Wolf fragment? The god of death frowned slightly. This is a rare item. However, fragments are the most useless things. The complete will of the universe is a treasure that can only be found by chance. However, a wolf fragment is not very useful. Instead, if you want to comprehend the will within, it will only be incomplete. By then, you will definitely be cursed. The loss outweighs the gain. It is far less stable than the will projection of my divine system's universe. You can keep it for yourself. The god of death was not interested. That native god must have known this, which was why he casually gave the will fragment to Carl. He wanted to use Carl's ignorance of the universe's will to bribe him. However, this was too naive. Did he really think that just because he destroyed one of his clones, the god of death, would not know anything? Since he's a spy, the god of death's face showed a hint of ruthlessness. Carl, find a chance and secretly tell that native god that I'm seriously injured and recuperating in the divine domain. Then send him the coordinates of the divine domain. Carl looked at the god of death and said slowly, "My god, you want to destroy that native god?" The god of death was obviously not his match. Then there was only one possibility. The god of death said coldly, "You just became my descendant and know too little about our divine system's universe. Kill this native heavenly god? I don't dare to. Now that the battle of the gods had begun, this local god could only be killed by the Qiming deity of the Dongwang divine branch. If the other heavenly deities dare to attack this native heavenly deity and disrupt the higher-ups' plans, I'm afraid they're tired of living." Carl was silent. Those who could become heavenly gods were naturally not simple people. "You don't need to understand my intentions. Just let him come." The god of death glanced at Carl and said indifferently, "Do you understand?" Carl nodded and disappeared into the void of space. The god of death looked at the shattered divine domain and murmured, "I can't kill the native heavenly gods. However, since I'm going to participate in this and get a share of the loot, I'll weaken his strength to ensure that the Qiming god can defeat him successfully. At the very least, I'll get a share of the loot, right?" That was what he thought. Native heavenly gods could not be killed. There were less than 70 days left before the awakening god would light up the divine fire. Judging from the current situation, that native heavenly deity could only be killed by the awakening deity. In this way, those native gods would see the huge gap between themselves and the divine system, and most of them would take the initiative to join the divine system. They were sucked in. In this way, the goal of the upper echelons would be achieved. However, that native heavenly god is very powerful. If I want to weaken his strength, I can't do it alone. I have to call a few more heavenly gods to prepare. With that native heavenly god's confidence, he will definitely come, even if he knows that this is a trap I set for him. Native heavenly gods were mostly proud and powerful. They had their own system. They stood out in their own universe and cultivated to become heavenly gods. They were indeed extraordinary. For should be enough, Wang Feng obtained the coordinates of the god of death's divine domain from Carl. Pinching his chin, Wang Feng thought for a moment. Carl didn't say anything else. "Looks like this is a trap. Fine, let's go take a look." The divine domain of a god of the divine system. Wang Feng had never seen one before. It was a good opportunity to see what the divine domains of these gods were like. The ancestral realm could also be used as a reference. Moreover, this god of death was a genuine heavenly god. Divine domains were very valuable. With the coordinates of the divine domain, Wang Feng could easily find the location in the universe with his current ability. After explaining to Yin Mingyao, Wang Feng did not use his body of faith to go there. This body of faith was too special. When the other party saw it, they would know that he must have a divine domain. Wang Feng did not want to expose this yet. He did not want to expose the strength of the ancestral realm. Placing the body of faith in the ancestral realm, Wang Feng used the yin-yang intersection origin that he and Shiyu cultivated together, as well as the heavenly embryo, to create a second body. He traveled through the void and arrived at the divine domain of the god of death. In the divine domain. This is the divine domain of the god of death. It looks tattered. Wang Feng looked at the vast land of the divine domain. The divine domain was vast, and the sky was broken. Wang Feng guessed that this was formed after the god of death's clone was killed by him. The divine domain was closely related to the gods. Any change of the gods would affect everything in the divine domain. Except for the sky, the land was dark. There was not much vegetation, and even mountains and rivers were very rare. Most of the land was barren. So King desolate, Wang Feng sighed. The god of death was a heavenly god, but his divine domain was like this. Of course, this might be the style of the Crow divine system. Anyway, Wang Feng could not appreciate it. However, he could indeed feel a lot of life aura from this divine domain. But most of the life in this divine domain does not seem to be much. There are not even many wild species, not to mention the holy species. Wang Fengxin secretly thought. His fake god opponents all had holy species. Not only that, but there were also spiritual paragons. And the species in the god of death's divine domain were too weak. The sky is broken, and the suppression of the rules in this divine domain is also very weak. Wang Feng shook his head. The god of death dared to set a trap for me in this state. It seems that he has a powerful helper. At this time, Wang Feng saw Carl. Long time no see, how have you been? Wang Feng asked casually. Carl narrowed his eyes and did not answer. He could not figure out this person. In the divine domain of the god of death, you seem to understand your situation, Carl said. Wang Feng smiled, looked around, and said, Divine territory just here? Let's not talk about anything else. Just the size of this divine domain, Wang Feng could know with a thought. Chapter 1816. The approximate area was about the size of 10 suns in his previous life. 10 suns seemed to be a lot. In fact, some great worlds could also reach this level. But the god of death was a heavenly god of the divine system universe, and the size of his divine realm was only this scale. It was not comparable to others. It was probably worlds apart from the ancestral realm. And the size of the divine realm was the most basic standard to measure the divine power of faith a god had. Since Wang Feng condensed the body of faith, and with the increase of the chaos green lotus, the ancestral realm had expanded many times. His divine power of faith was far, far greater than the god of death's. And it was just the quantity. The other was the concentration of energy. The energy of the god of death's divine realm was inclined to the dark demon chi of the dark demon world, which was a death energy with dark attributes. So Wang Feng felt that such a regional appearance was normal. However, the energy concentration was too inferior. It was only slightly better than the dark demon world. Compared to the spiritual chi concentration of the ancestral realm, the difference was like heaven and earth. As for the life of the clan tribe, Wang Feng smiled and looked at the many undead creatures in the tombs in the divine realm, smiling without saying a word. It was not that they were not strong. Those undead creatures were the dead collected by the god of death from many universes and placed in his own divine realm to nurture and create. They had a certain potential, but obviously, the god of death took the modern cultivation path of the divine system universe. He did not spend time to create clan tribes in the divine realm, and almost all of them were controlled by divine power imprints. Those undead creatures were probably created by the god of death out of boredom, or he used the dead bodies of creatures from other universes as materials. Wang Feng estimated that if he brought the humans of the ancestral realm over, he could directly crush these clan tribes of the god of death into ashes like chopping melons and vegetables. Carl frowned slightly and said, You will be suppressed by the rules of the divine realm and my god's divine realm. Even if my god was injured by you before, you can't exert all of your strength. Why are you still so confident? All of my strength. Wang Feng laughed a few times. Do I need to exert all of my strength to deal with a few clowns of the divine system universe? Clowns. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zichen's voice fell. In the void, several light shadows gathered. From majestic god shadows descended on the horizon, exuding endless majestic light and divine power. What a native heavenly deity! A cold divine voice rang out. There seemed to be chains condensed from endless rules in the sky, shrinking between the sky and the earth, shrouding towards where Wang Feng was. The pitch-black chains were covered with countless ancient runes, as if they possessed the rhythm of life. Blood gushed out, carrying the power of faith of trillions of lives. Carl immediately disappeared. These were the shackles of the god of death's divine domain. Different god realms had different rules and shackles. Instead, it was used to restrain the enemies who had entered the divine territory. Moreover, These shackles were condensed from the power of faith, and they couldn't be broken through normal means, unless it could bear the faith of the god of death, which had gathered all the faith of the god of death's clan. Even gods of the same level wouldn't be able to withstand it. Carl then looked at the three beside the god of death and remained silent. Clearly, he was the helper that the god of death had found. They were probably all heavenly gods. Their attire was somewhat similar to that of the god of death. They were heavenly gods of the same divine system. One of them was only a shadow and didn't even have a physical body. It was a most special. As for the other two, they were both in human form. Wang Feng glanced at it. He was indeed a heavenly god, because they all had the aura of the universe's will. Interestingly, the aura of the universe's will on them was very special. How should he put it? It was very empty. Wang Feng frowned slightly. In the divine system universe, the universe's will wasn't a mandatory condition to become a heavenly god because it was too rare. Instead, it used the projection of the will, but it also had the ability of most of the universe's will. Wang Feng hadn't noticed it when he was facing the clone of the god of death. But now that he saw the true body of the god of death, he could sense it. The other three heavenly gods weren't true bodies. Like the god of death, they were all clones. The gods of the divine system universe generally wouldn't leave their divine realms with their true bodies. Seeing the rule chains coming at him, Wang Feng didn't dodge, as if he didn't even have the intention to dodge. If you have other skills, hurry up and use them. Wang Feng said casually, I know that you don't dare to kill me. But you don't dare to kill me, and you even lured me here. Do you want to teach me a lesson? To vent your anger? But if you want to teach me a lesson with your tattered divine realm, it might be very difficult. As for the helpers you called over, speaking of this, Wang Feng paused. Rotten fish and shrimps. As soon as he said this, the aura of the three heavenly gods beside the god of death changed immediately. I've heard of the arrogance of native heavenly gods many times, but this is the first time I've seen it. An extremely handsome, young heavenly god with a fair complexion smiled. His face was somewhat pale, and his pupils were light red. Earth Spirit God, what do you think? As he spoke, his body emitted a faint, bloody aura. However, this bloody aura didn't have a fishy smell. Instead, it had a rich and unique fragrance. Blood Spirit God. Wang Feng narrowed his eyes, feeling that this god might be a treasure. He sensed the bloody aura of countless living beings from this god's body. Blood was a necessary condition for the creation of living beings. He might not know what he's about to face. Another god beside the god of death said with a smile. He was the Earth Spirit God. This god's appearance were one level higher than the god of death and Blood Spirit God. He had an extremely dense and majestic aura, and his strength might be one level higher than the god of death's. Crow's Earth Spirit God. Wang Feng roughly knew the gods of the Crow divine system. Their gods would have the word spirit in their names. Generally, gods with the word crow in their names were the gods of the Crow divine system. The so-called gods of the Crow divine system were the outstanding gods of the god factions under the supreme god. The gods of the Crow divine system were mostly the elite gods of the various factions. This god was the strongest, and Wang Feng's perception was also the strongest. This Earth Spirit God emitted a boundless and dense aura of the earth. Wang Feng looked at the last god. He was in the shadows, and his appearance couldn't be seen. However, Wang Feng had a feeling that this god might have the highest status and the strongest god. Whether it was the god of death or the other two gods, they all seemed a little nervous when they looked at this god. This god might have a powerful background. Even Wang Feng couldn't sense any aura from him. Supreme God. Wang Fengxian's heart suddenly jumped. Impossible. The Supreme God had an extremely high status in the God faction universe, and he wouldn't appear easily. Even if the Earth Spirit God was a god of the Crow divine system, who knew how many gods of the Crow divine system were directly under the Supreme God? How could he possibly follow them? Unable to figure it out, Wang Fengxian secretly became vigilant. Chapter 1817. In the deity plane, Wang Feng was bound by the chains of laws. However, His expression did not change. The primordial origin had been activated. Halos spread from Wang Feng's forehead to his whole body, analyzing the chains of laws. The chains contained the will of the god of death's universe. It was the most powerful and least costly method in the deity plane. This was not an exaggeration. Wang Feng did not know much about the projection of the will of the deity system's universe. Therefore, he planned to analyze it through the chains of laws. Who is this god? Wang Feng continued asking. The process of analyzing the primordial origin would take some time. Naturally, Sui Xiong planned to talk to these gods first. They did not know about the primordial origin. At most, they thought he was struggling. You are not qualified to know, the god of death said lightly. After that, he turned his palm slightly. In an instant, the deity plane shook and emitted a bright light, surging toward Wang Feng. The two of you, this guy is far more powerful than this. Although he is bound by the chains of laws, I'm afraid he has been scheming for a long time. The god of death immediately said to the other two gods, "It's not that easy to destroy half of his strength. Let's do it. If we delay too long, there might be changes. We have already sent the news to the Dongwang divine system. The Dongwang divine system has promised us that if we can destroy half of this native god's strength, they will guarantee the victory of the deity war. They promise to give us at least 3 pieces of Cosmos God crystals, 10 pieces of Saint Grey God seeds, and many high deity realm fragments." The god of death said in a low voice. Hearing this, the eyes of the other two gods lit up. The Dongwang divine system is really willing to help. The god of blood laughed. They're even willing to give away Cosmos God crystals. This deity war is indeed very important to the Dongwang divine system. Of course, a few days ago, I heard from a supreme god that several primordial gods in the upper echelons of the deity system's universe are observing this matter. The god of earth said proudly, "The upper echelons must want to take this opportunity to win over that group of native gods. Since we have encountered this opportunity, we will not let it go." The god of death smiled. He turned to look at Wang Feng. Deep in his eyes was extremely serious. Even now, he would never forget how his avatar had been destroyed. The strength of this native heavenly god was definitely not ordinary. Otherwise, he wouldn't have found 2 helpers. As soon as he finished speaking, the other 2 gods started to attack. Although it was only their avatars that entered the god of death's divine realm, their strength would not decrease too much. The reason was simple. They were all from the same god system, and the god of death had a close relationship with them. In the divine region, there would not be many rules and restrictions on them. Moreover, the god of death's divine realm had also been damaged to a certain extent, so the restrictions on them were even weaker. A blood-red sun appeared on Blood Spirit God's chest. It was unknown what kind of powerful origin it was. Wisps of blood-colored light started to converge on the origin from all directions. In the blink of an eye, it formed a blood-red spear. Countless cracks began to appear on the god of death's divine domain. The powerful divine power fluctuations caused the already overwhelmed divine domain to tremble and almost shatter. "Everyone, there's no need to estimate my god domain. Just use your most powerful means." The god of death shouted, "Once this native heavenly god attacks, my god domain will be shattered immediately, so there's no need to estimate. If the god domain was destroyed, it could be rebuilt. Although it would take a long time, the reward from Dongwang god system could shorten the time by a lot. It could even go further." At this time, he naturally wouldn't care about the god domain. He didn't think about luring this native heavenly god here. The blood spirit god laughed and said, "Don't worry, I didn't hold back. This spear is a projection of my own will, and it contains a strong will of blood. Plus, I gathered the blood of billions of creatures and at least 100 types of saint creatures' blood essence in the universe, and cast a soul refining method. Even a heavenly god of the same level as me can't bear it. Now that he is bound by the chains of rules, no matter how strong he is, his divine soul will be damaged and his origin will be damaged. At that time, his strength will definitely be reduced. Moreover, because this method is soul sacrificial refining, there won't be any traces left. They were all heavenly gods. They had a detailed estimation of the purpose of this trip and the strength of both sides. Their purpose was very clear. They wanted to teach this native heavenly god a lesson and reduce his strength greatly. They didn't have any intention of killing him. Not bad. Your will of blood projection seems to have become more solid. Earth Spirit God smiled and said, "It already has some resemblance to the supreme god of blood doctrine." After Earth Spirit God finished speaking, he opened his eyes slightly and stepped lightly on the void with one foot. Suddenly, a vast and heavy aura rose from his body. "Then I won't hold back," Earth Spirit God shouted in a low voice. "It just so happens that my will of Earth projection has recently obtained one of the main sources of the will of Earth. The projection has already begun to solidify. It's a good opportunity to test its power." The Death Spirit God looked at the Earth Spirit God with envy. The treatment and fate of direct gods were indeed different. The will of avatars they obtained wasn't the true will of the universe. It was a will of avatars formed by the god system's universe, developing the will of the universe. It could allow the false gods of the god system's universe to obtain these projections and comprehend the will of the universe. Then, with the support of their own god domain's faith, they could step into the level of universal life. However, compared to the true will of the universe, there was still quite a difference. This was the reason why the native heavenly gods were strong. To be able to stand out in other universes and become a native heavenly god, they must have obtained the true will of the universe. Their strength was naturally very strong. Fortunately, the heavenly gods of the god system's universe had fused with the god domain's faith. Together with their clan tribe, they weren't much weaker than the native heavenly gods. Of course, their individual strength was still far inferior. Rumble. The instant Earth Spirit God moved, a nameless mountain peak rose from Earth Spirit God's feet like a pagoda. This mountain peak seemed to contain thousands of mysteries. There was a glistening divine light circulating and endless laws covering it. A resplendent radiance was imprinted on the peak of the mountain peak. Death Spirit God felt that his god domain seemed to be out of his control. His soul, body, and mind felt an extremely huge pressure. This is Death Spirit God's pupils contracted. This is the main source of the will of Earth, the heavy Earth origin. He stared at the radiance on the peak of the mountain peak. The main source of any will of the universe was extremely difficult to find in the universe. Once one obtained the main source, it was equivalent to having half a hand touching this will of the universe. The path to becoming a heavenly god was considered to be wide open. To become a supreme god, one only needed to develop the god domain well. That was inevitable. Chapter 1818. This mountain is made from the heavy earth gathered from tens of thousands of primordial realms and billions of believers. After fusing with the heavy earth origin, its power is unpredictable. It intersects with the projection of the earth willpower. Even I am not sure of its current power. The Earth Spirit God had a proud expression and a faint smile. I hope this native heavenly god will not be crushed into nothingness. If that is the case, the higher-ups will definitely blame me. The last sentence was a joke. However, the Earth Spirit God and the Blood Spirit God could hear the seriousness in his words. The Death Spirit God thought to himself. What he said was true. However, based on his intuition, this native heavenly god was not that simple. However, as long as he could suppress this native heavenly god and reduce his strength, it would be fine. In comparison, the Death Spirit God felt that the Blood Spirit God's method was more mysterious. The main thing was that he could not leave any traces. Even if this native heavenly god wanted to find an excuse to go back on his words during the God War and apply for a God judgment from the God System universe, he could not do so. Going against our God System universe, these native heavenly gods do not understand that they are just lambs. The Death Spirit God stared at the Blood Spirit God and sneered in his heart. At the same time, I see. Wang Feng was enlightened. The primordial origin had completely analyzed the chain of laws. He roughly understood what the so-called willpower projection was. The chains contained the projection of that will. How should he put it? Just like a real person and a model. Although the willpower projection contained the mysteries of the willpower projection, that was all. It turns out that most of the heavenly gods in the god system universe relied on the willpower projection to become heavenly gods. No wonder Wang Feng understood. He knew it was difficult to obtain the willpower projection. Why were there so many in the god system universe? It turned out that it was the willpower projection. However, he had to admit that the god who came up with this method was extremely powerful. A long time ago, the god system universe was at most a large world like the dark demon domain. Then, it slowly developed into a god system universe. Then it became a whole. They used the willpower projection and the belief system of the god domain to make the life forms in the universe gradually stronger and improve their genes. To become a true god, Wang Feng closed his eyes. A willpower projection combined with the history of the god system universe that he obtained from the Crimson God Fox Emperor, Wang Feng had a better understanding of the god system universe. Using this method can break the restrictions. Nurture a large number of heavenly gods with the strength of universe-level life forms. Wang Feng was rather impressed. Whether it was the god world, the dark demon world, or the other great worlds, they couldn't find a way to become a universe-level life form. Yin Xingjue had used the god-slaying universe as a reference to the god-slaying universe, but had only increased the strength of the dark demon world's demon gods by another level. However, to become a universe-level life form, even she herself found it difficult to do so. However, the god system universe was able to develop such a method, and it should have been developed a long time ago. That was how the current god system universe came to be. In other words, a long time ago, there was probably not much difference between the divinity system's universe and today's Douluo, divine realm, dark demon realm, and other great worlds. Truly amazing. The more Wang Feng thought about it, the more impressed he felt. Today's god system universe was so powerful that it couldn't have developed to this extent without this kind of constructive change of will projection. Unfortunately, this method of will projection could not be analyzed. The chains of laws merely contain the projection of the god of death's universe will. It was formed by combining faith and divine power. Thinking of this, Wang Feng struggled slightly. The willpower chains on his body were instantly shattered. Even the will projection of the god of death is incomplete. This little trick, Wang Feng opened his eyes and looked into the distance. He just happened to see a mountain that seemed to be able to suppress the universe directly crashing down. A blood spear exuding a monstrous blood aura was attacking him. This mountain is not bad. Wang Feng's eyes lit up as he stared at the origin on the mountain. The projection of the universe's will did not need many origins that the will needed. The strength that could be unleashed was also different according to the level of comprehension of the heavenly god. However, the projection of will combined with the divine realm of faith. No matter how strong one's comprehension was, it was impossible to surpass the power of the true universe's will. It might even be difficult to reach 80%. However, the powerful origin on this mountain made Wang Feng feel a little bit of the true power of the universe's will. This mountain is not bad either. Wang Feng's eyes immediately lit up. If he came here empty-handed, wouldn't it be a wasted trip? Thinking of this, Wang Feng's palm moved, and a mysterious quintessence shockingly floated up into appearance. Fall down! The origin in Wang Feng's palm emitted a majestic divine light, and then merged into his entire palm. With a light tap of his toes, Wang Feng seemed as though he did not feel any pressure or weight from the mountain. It was as though he was plucking a star from the sky. He directly grabbed the origin embedded in the mountain into his palm. The origin of heavy earth on the mountain seemed to be trembling and begging for mercy, as though it was afraid of Wang Feng's palm. Wang Feng clenched his fist and immediately felt an extremely heavy power of earth. What an excellent origin! Wang Feng laughed loudly. At the same time, impossible. Almost at the same time, the god of death and the other two gods in the distance cried out in alarm. This god's origin of heavy earth. I lost my senses. The smile on the earth spirit god's face had yet to stiffen. His voice was trembling as he said, "This is impossible. This is the origin of heavy earth that is bound to my earthwell projection. How could he just grab it and lose its senses? Even if he wants to snatch the origin, it is not that simple. This is absolutely impossible. Origin could be snatched away. However, it was extremely difficult to do so. The origin could be snatched away, but the connection with the heaven god's perception could not be removed. This was especially true for the origin of heavy earth that was bound to the earthwell projection. Unless the heaven god was killed, it was impossible to remove the connection with the heaven god's perception. The earth spirit god had lived for so long, but he had never seen a situation where he lost control of his origin after the other party grabbed it. This meant that the origin of heavy earth no longer belonged to him. Moreover, at the moment when the connection was severed, the earth spirit god could feel that at that moment, the origin of heavy earth seemed to be filled with boundless fear and wanted to leave the mountain. When the blood spirit god saw this, he immediately had an idea. Return. The blood spirit god growled and wanted to call back the blood spear. The blood spear also contained his origin. The blood spear and the mountain were the divine weapons of faith of the heaven gods. They were connected to their origin and possessed boundless power. However, it was over. Almost at the same time as he said that, Wang Feng grabbed the blood spear. His palm seemed to emit a suction force like a black hole and directly sucked out a faint blood-colored origin. Not bad. Wang Feng narrowed his eyes as he looked at the two origin, the mountain and the blood spear in his hand. The origin tribulation divine king's origin tribulation origin is truly powerful. Wang Feng looked at the palm that had grabbed the two origins. That's right. The origin that he used just now was the last of the 7 great origin that he inherited from the origin tribulation divine king. It was also the most mysterious and special origin. Origin tribulation. All heaven's origin tribulation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1819. Origin Tribulation Origin Source. It was the last origin source that Wang Feng inherited from the origin tribulation divine king. It was also the most mysterious origin source. Adjudication, redemption, indestructible, elements, devour, nihility, origin tribulation. Wang Feng had used these 7 origins except for the origin tribulation origin source. He understood the meaning and function of these origins. The origin tribulation origin source was the most mysterious. At the same time, it was the same as the origin tribulation divine king's name. It was very important. It was even related to the origin tribulation divine king's universe will. After returning from the dark demon realm's soul realm, defeating Emotiance, and regaining these origins, Wang Feng had never touched the origin tribulation essences before, because he didn't know what it was used for. Later, when he asked the Qian Rinxue for the angel origin core and planned to merge it into the origin tribulation divine king's universe will, the Qian Rinxue didn't agree. In the end, Wang Feng didn't get the complete origin tribulation divine king's origin source. After that, because the Pangu Act's true soul had been completely repaired and he had comprehended the will of heaven opening within it, he had also deduced the primordial wheel time soul in his soul domain and created 2 clones. His strength had greatly increased, and he rarely used the 7 great essences of origin tribulation deity king. Most of these 7 origins were placed in the ancestral realm by Wang Feng and became the ancestral realm's heavenly Tao law through Yin Meng Yao. Especially the nihility origin source, it could purify those nihility life forms and turn them into pure nihility souls. As for the origin tribulation origin source, Wang Feng didn't use it. But it wasn't that Wang Feng didn't study it. On the contrary, the origin tribulation divine king was an extremely important existence in his life. It was impossible for Wang Feng not to study it. Therefore, Wang Feng had been studying the origin tribulation origin source. Origin tribulation, origin tribulation. I don't know how the origin tribulation divine, king, comprehended this origin source. Wang Fengxin sighed. As the name implied, the origin tribulation was the tribulation of all origins, destruction and rebirth. It could destroy the power of origins. Whether it was the origin contained in the blood spirit god's blood spear or the origin on the mountain peak, they almost instantly lost all power under the origin source. They were completely controlled. In fact, if Wang Feng wanted to, he could even destroy the two controlled origins. Once these two sources were destroyed, the blood spirit god and the earth spirit god would definitely suffer a great loss of vitality and strength. However, if he wanted to destroy the origin, he would need to use up a lot of divine power. Moreover, the energy waves produced would not only destroy the god realm of the god of death, but would also destroy the surrounding nebula. This place still belonged to the divine system universe and the Douluo divine system. Wang Feng didn't know how powerful this Kilo divine branch was, but it definitely had a few supreme gods. Doing so was obviously not appropriate. There was no need to go head-on against the god system universe. Moreover, the current situation was that the gods of the Kilo divine system were secretly trying to deal with him. He had also signed the Godly Battle Holy Scroll with the godly system universe. Once their actions were made public, even the rules of the divine system universe would be on their side. Is that all you've got? Wang Feng's left hand grasped the two glowing origin sources, feeling the surging power within. With a flip of his hand, the crimson spear and the mountain were drawn into his grasp again. This scene caused the hearts of the blood spirit god and the earth spirit god to twitch violently. The crimson spear and the mountain were divine weapons of faith that they had used up an unknown amount of materials and faith power to refine. They were taken away just like that, not to mention these divine weapons. Even the most precious origin sources were gone. Such a blow caused the breathing of the two gods to become hurried and their vision blurred. Even with their divine bodies and bodies, it was almost impossible for them to withstand such a blow. Not to mention other things. Once these two origin sources were lost, it would mean that their future path would be buried. The god of death at the side was so frightened that he couldn't speak. What kind of method was this? If it was like before, the other party could just take out that axe and send the crimson spear and the mountain flying. He could understand it. However, not only did he take away the origin sources, he even took away the divine weapons of faith of a heavenly god. The most terrifying thing was that even the connection between the origin sources and the heavenly god was destroyed. Furthermore, he can't be thinking of crushing those two origin sources, right? The god of death looked at the two origin sources that were crazily pulsating in Wang Feng's palm. This premonition in his heart was extremely strong. His heart was filled with fear. He knew the power of the explosion of these two origin sources. Why? Are you afraid that I will crush them? Wang Feng looked at the god of death and seemed to see the fear in the latter's eyes. He smiled and said, "You heavenly gods should have more than one origin sources, right? Come again? Where is your will projection? Why don't you show it to me?" As a heavenly god, the will projection was, of course, the most powerful method. However, when the god of death heard this, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. It wasn't a life and death battle. Which heavenly god would casually use the will projection? Not only did it consume a lot of energy, but it was also extremely destructive. Even if it was used, it wouldn't be in the divine domain. Usually, it would be used according to different will projections for other purposes. The god of blood and the god of earth stopped talking. Their bodies trembled. Again, origin sources weren't something that could be found on the streets, especially after becoming a heavenly god. Every origin source was extremely important because it was closely related to the will projection. Although the will projection was complete, the more origin sources related to the will of the universe, the more condensed the will projection. It would become the true will of the universe, the ability to have the complete will of the universe. At that time, combined with the divine domain's system of belief, it could allow the heavenly god to reach a new height. In the future, when he became a supreme god, he would have to do this. Losing one origin source was already a huge blow to his vitality. If he were to do it again, now, the child of wealth? What a good native heavenly god. The god of blood's voice was dry. From the beginning, he had said the same thing. Now, he still said the same thing. However, the situation couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. The god of earth was also silent. Before coming, the god of death had already introduced to them how powerful this native heavenly god was. However, from the looks of it, this native heavenly god's strength was still unfathomable. He didn't use the methods that the god of death had mentioned. Just this method of snatching the origin sources and extinguishing the perception was already extremely difficult to deal with. If they were to fight recklessly now, at most, both sides would suffer. It wasn't worth it. It seems like you guys don't plan to fight. Wang Feng smiled. Then, it would be impolite for this god to refuse these two origins and this plaything. Hearing this, the god of blood and god of earth's aura became chaotic, and their hearts twitched again. However, they didn't say anything else. Wang Feng could see through it. The gods of Crow God system were all people who bullied the weak and feared the strong. They probably cherished their own heavenly path and didn't dare to gamble. They were very cowardly. In a chapter that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.